Chapter 81. Each of the 5 major ninja countries has its own characteristics. Kingdom of Fire occupies the most fertile area, with no shortage of forests, mountains, and rivers. The Kingdom of Wind has vast deserts, and the people there eat the northwest wind every day. The Kingdom of Water is dotted with archipelagos, surrounded by mountains and rivers, and they eat fish every day until they vomit. The country's Gobi Desert intersects, and it's almost like a goddess's spare tire. Except for poverty, it means suffering. Among them, the geographical location of the Country of Thunder is even worse. The Kingdom of Thunder is located in the northern part of the world plate. The mountains here are dangerous, the mountains are endless, and wild beasts frequently appear in the mountains. The mountains are lush and green, with evergreen pines and cypresses, towering ancient trees and thick shrubs. And in this wild mountain ridge, at some point, a group of snakes of various colors and strangers in black brocade clothes came. Sasuke led the eagle team and stood among the mountains. Looking up, he saw majestic and steep mountains, with strange peaks and clouds. The endless mountains were like a green dragon lying here, and he didn't know how many meters they spread. Standing here, you can vaguely see a towering mountain peak in the distance, about 10 miles in radius. The mountain peak is straight and steep, standing there like a smooth column. At a glance, it is difficult to see the end of the mountain peak. That's where Union Village is located. It's shrouded in clouds and mist all year round, and it's also their goal this time. Sasuke quickly formed seals with his hands and pressed them to the ground. Psychic art. Yu Yet, who was in Rika Cave, suddenly opened his copper bell-sized eyes, and in an instant, a huge snake body was summoned to the ninja world. Sasuke and the others half knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Welcome, Your Majesty." "Well, everyone, get up." With Nato's approval, Sasuke and others stood up one after another. Nato's eyes fell on Sasuke and said, "I sent you here for nearly a week. How is your investigation regarding the location of the 8-tailed Jinchuriki going?" Sasuke cupped his hands and said humbly, "Reporting to the Lord, in the past week, judging from the intelligence sent back by the people and snakes, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki rabbi is not in Kumo Hidden Village, but in a valley one day away from Kumo Hidden Village." As he spoke, Sasuke looked strange. Yuya was most annoyed by people who would titillate in the middle of their words, so he said impatiently, "Stop hesitating, tell me, Kirabi, what is he doing?" Sasuke looked strange and hesitated. According to intelligence from the spies, Kirabi was practicing singing in that valley. For an unsmiling ninja like Sasuke, Kirabi is simply a shame to ninjas. A good ninja who doesn't do serious work actually practices singing, and even raps after practicing, and it's a very ugly one. According to statistics, among the spies who went to investigate the intelligence, there were 38 snakes and 4 ninjas. Because they couldn't stand Kirabi's howling ghosts, they foamed at the mouth and retreated. Hearing the news, Yuya remained silent. In fact, even if there was an expression on his snake face, others wouldn't be able to tell. Kirabi is not in Union Village, which is good news for Yuya. At least, when attacking Union Village, Yuya will have one less powerful enemy. Thinking like this, Yuya ordered the army to move out. At the same time, the huge snake body escaped into the ground and shuttled through the ground. Sasuke obeyed the order and waved to his surrounding subordinates, all maneuvering in secret. Ninjas are not soldiers and do not need to advance with great fanfare, but our existence is similar to special forces. They form groups of 2s and 3s, dispersed in the vast mountains, approaching the Union Village 20 kilometers away. A group of snakes spread out in front of them to clear the way. Union Village arranged a patrol team around them. Even the number of people, the pattern of the patrols, and when they ate, drank, and defecated had already been clearly detected by the snake group. Union Village has been at peace for a long time, and it is not sensitive enough to crises. What's more, the group of snakes that came to explore the road were just ordinary snakes and could not attract Union's attention at all. When Nato's side, ninjas in black brocade robes and Uraichi sprang out from the grass and wiped the patrolling Kumagakure's throat with a sharp kunao, those Kumagakure opened their pupils wide, never expecting that there was someone there before they died. Called at the doorstep. Patrol teams and secret sentries lurking in the mountains and forests were eliminated one by Yuya. All this was done quietly, and the Union Village side has not noticed it yet. Yuyi's side was very fast, and it only took half a day to surround Union Village before dark. At this moment, Union Village is still immersed in peace. Dark-skinned villagers roamed the streets, and the market was bustling with people, making it look like a scene of peace and prosperity. But at the next moment, a sudden siren rang through the sky. Immediately afterwards, the gate of Union Village instantly ignited with flames reaching into the sky. Ninjas in black brocade clothes rushed into the village like wolves and tigers, performing various ninjutsu and shooting at the military facilities in the village indiscriminately. At the same time, the overwhelming swarm of snakes spread for countless miles, like a raging wave sweeping into the village. Neither the ninja nor the snake group dealt with the ordinary people. This was not only an order from Mu Yet, but also because they wanted to fight quickly and not waste time. For a moment, there were flashes of swords and shadows, and snakes screamed in the sky. The fighting continued, starting from the entrance of the village and spreading to the surrounding high-rise houses. There were fighting figures and swarms of squirming snakes everywhere. Raikage AI, who was working in the Raikage building, was startled by the sudden enemy attack alarm. His rough, calloused hands suddenly exerted force and crushed the pen in his hand into powder. The fourth Raikage, known as the strongest Raikage in history, has the dark skin unique to the Land of Thunder and a burly physique like a black bear. His muscles are knotted all over his body, like cast steel and iron, and his wrists are still wearing metal rings. He looks like an extremely aggressive hero. Bang! Standing in front of the French window, the fourth Raikage watched the village being invaded, punched the wall, and directly smashed a 5-centimeter deep hole, splitting spider web-like cracks. The fourth Raikage turned around and looked at his right-hand man Xi, the captain of the part-time perception team, and asked angrily. Are you all in the perception team shitless? The enemy has already hit us, but you didn't notice anything. The blonde and black-eyed Xi was terrified and said anxiously. Lord Raikage, there are ninjas who can block perception in the enemy lineup, and we can't do anything about it. Forget it, now is not the time to worry about these things. The fourth Raikage pulled his collar, revealing his strong chest, his two silkworm eyebrows twisted into a ball, grabbed the windowsill with one hand, turned over and jumped. His figure was as light as a black bear and as agile as a leopard, leaving only a light sentence to Xi behind him. As long as I am here, no one can go wild here. Chapter 82. Cloud Village. A bright moon hangs high in the night sky above, and the silver light illuminates a large area of the sky. In the moonlight that leaks like mercury, the outlines of the nearby buildings are clear, the shadows of trees are swaying, and the shadows of people are looming. For the Supreme Master. Kill. On the streets and between the buildings, several urgent roars suddenly came. Accompanied by a rustling sound of creeping, a group of densely packed snakes emerged and killed towards the nearby Cloud Village. Facing these ordinary snakes, the density can make any intensive phobia person crazy, but the Cloud Village is not weak at all. Every ninjutsu or throwing out a detonating talisman can clear a large area. However, what makes Cloud Village feel desperate is behind. The snake group seems endless. No matter how much they kill, there is still an endless sea of snakes in front of them. Some people's chakra was exhausted, and they couldn't even scream, and were drowned by the wolf-like snakes. The death of their companions made the Union seething, but it also aroused their ruthlessness. From time to time, it can be seen that some Union left the last bit of chakra, and when the snakes approached, a dazzling lightning flashed all over their bodies, accompanied by a loud bang, and they exploded, dragging a large group of snakes around to hell together. The hissing and explosions complemented each other, and the sounds were heard and resounded through the sky. The two sides fought fiercely, and each suffered casualties. There were corpses everywhere, broken walls and ruins, like a hell on earth. Under the moonlight, Sasuke's slightly thin figure stood on a tall building, his arms folded, staring coldly at the battlefield not far away. Seeing that those Kumigakure wanted to self-destruct and drag a large group of snakes into the water before dying, Sasuke said with disdain. How stupid! The master has a broad mind and has been keeping a low profile for 2 years. He has cultivated hundreds of millions of snakes. You can kill them as much as you want. There are still many more to come. In addition to the snake group, the peripheral members composed of the remnants of the Sound Village and the ninjas of the small ninja village also sneaked into the Kumigakure village. However, compared with the snake group's big and brainless push, these desperate criminals seem much more cunning. They always lurk in the dark and attack. If they miss, they will flee thousands of miles away. They constantly assassinate the commanders of the Kumigakure side at all levels, making the Kumigakure side anxious. In fact, the Kumigakure side should not be so embarrassed. Unfortunately, Kumigakure has been peaceful for a long time. Many ninjas in the village are out on missions, resulting in a lack of strength. In addition, the sudden attack by Yu Yi's side caught them off guard, which caused them to be in a disadvantageous situation now. The war and fire continued to spread. In front of a team, a young man who looked like a fat man was constantly organizing the cloud-hidden village to resist in an orderly manner. Under his command, the team advanced and retreated in an orderly manner, with strong combat effectiveness and few casualties. This young man had dark skin, white hair, bangs covering his left eye, thick lips, and tattoos of the words thunder and water on his left and right shoulders respectively. He was the right-hand man of the fourth Raikage, Darui. The front column will withdraw in an orderly manner, and the members in the rear will immediately fill the gap in the front. Just as Darui was doing his best to maintain the front line and prevent Yu Yi's side from advancing, he did not notice the approaching killing intent. Because the battlefield was fierce, no one noticed that a pool of water appeared on the ground at some point, slowly approaching Darui. Like a venomous snake hidden in the bushes, the ghostly figure of Kizuki Hojiki jumped out of the puddle, holding a beheading sword, and slashed at Darui's head. Fast. Accurate. Cruel. Hojiki Kizuki is very good at this, and his moves are fast and quick. With his excellent lurking skills and sharp decapitation tactics, he has killed dozens of commanders at all levels of the cloud-hidden village, paralyzed many teams, and caused the cloud-hidden village to retreat step by step. Among all these, Hojiki Kizuki can be said to have made great achievements in the war. Hojiki Kizuki smiled grimly, as if he had seen that Darui was just like the dozens of idiots before, and his head was chopped off by him. However, Darui is not only the right-hand man of the fourth Raikage, he is also the only successor of the third Raikage's Black Lightning Escape, possessing the Blood Limit Storm Escape, and will become the fifth Raikage in the future. As an excellent commander, Darui has long been accustomed to being assassinated. His face is calm. He noticed the sound of breaking wind coming from behind his head and slowly made a seal. Lightning Escape. Black Spot Difference. A black arc suddenly burst out from Darui's body, turning into a ferocious cheetah, wrapping Darui tightly. The beheading sword chopped down with great force. Once it touched the black arc, iron could conduct electricity, and it was instantly conducted to Suigetsu Kizuki. Oops! Shugetsu Kizuki was also experienced in combat. He knew very well that lightning escape specifically restrained his bloodline limit, so he let go directly, not even wanting the beheading sword. His body scattered and turned into a pool of water foam, and he was going to use it to escape. If the attack missed, he would escape thousands of miles away. Shugetsu Kizuki didn't have the consciousness to stay and sacrifice for the public. He was not like other people who could shed their blood for their master Yu Yi. As long as the Green Mountains are there will be no worries about firewood. As for the abandoned beheading sword, Suigetsu Kizuki would just temporarily leave it in Kumigakure and take it back when he had time. Shugetsu Kizuki had a good idea and was very happy. But, we also have to ask Darui whether he agrees or not. Darui glanced at the water stains on the ground and frowned. The Water Lamp clan of Kirigakure village. Darui stepped forward, and his heavy canvas shoes erupted with a flash of electricity that was difficult to see directly. The dark arcs of electricity, like swimming loaches, poured into the ground one after another, arcing towards the ghost lights, water and moon. Spread in the direction. Is the water moving fast? Or is lightning faster? The answer is self-evident. Crackling. 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 Like a series of firecrackers exploding, accompanied by a flash of black electric light, and a scream, Ghost Lantern Shuiyu fled out of the underground water in embarrassment. He looked at his feet with lingering fear, as if there was a devil's cave that chose people to eat. Seeing Darui leading a group of Union approaching slowly, Guideng Shuiyu smiled awkwardly, waved his hand and said, That, I want to surrender. Guideng Shuiyu had no moral integrity at all. Seeing that there was no chance of escape, he simply raised his hands in the air, acting like the baby is very good, don't hurt me. Darui and the others stopped, their faces slightly twitching. But at this moment, Sasuke's cold voice came from high in the sky. Shuiyu, step back and let me come here. Chapter 83. Cloud Village. In the sky, a falcon spread its 2-meter-long wings. Sasuke stood steadily on it. With one step, he spread his wings like a rock and flew down rapidly. How could Darui ignore such a good target? Darui would not wait for the enemy to fall foolishly. He had no intention of talking nonsense with Sasuke. He raised his hand to the Cloud Village ninja behind him and shouted. Kill him! Yes! The Cloud Village responded in unison. For a moment, all kinds of lightning ninjutsu blasted towards Shizuke. Shizuke showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth. His left eye was a Sharingan and his right eye was a golden snake pupil, which meant that Yu Yi was paying close attention to the battle here. Just Cloud Village, let you see how powerful my lord is. Shizuke signed a slavery contract with Yu Yi, and he could inherit Yu Yi's talents and abilities 100%. Iron Skin. A layer of scales suddenly appeared on Sasuke's body. It looked as thin as paper and as light as a cicada's wing, but it had a strong defensive power. Of course, even so, Shizuke didn't want to withstand the attack of Kumagakure. The next moment, Shizuke suddenly turned into a ball of fire, burned out, disappeared in midair, and then suddenly appeared in the Kumagakure army. Flame Instant Body. As soon as Shizuke appeared, he didn't need to make a seal at all, and opened his mouth and spit. Fire Style. Phoenix Fire Technique. Orange-red fireballs with platinum edges fell on the Kumagakure army like flowers from the sky, like fireworks blooming in the night sky, beautiful with a hint of cruelty. The fireballs made of samadhi true fire fell on the Kumagakure ninjas, and in less than a breath, they burned the opponent to ashes. In an instant, with Shizuke as the center, the area within 100 meters turned into ashes, and the scene was cleared in an instant. How is this possible? Darui looked at his men who died in a blink of an eye, with a look of disbelief on his face. These are not some ragtag troops, but one of the most elite troops of the Hidden Cloud Village. Logically speaking, even if they are hit by a fireball, they will definitely not die, at most they will be slightly injured. Don't be surprised, the physical fitness of the ninjas in the Hidden Cloud Village is so strong. The Hidden Cloud Village has been using lightning to stimulate cells for many years, and has practiced physical skills, and has long forged a strong body. But even so, it still can't withstand even a second under the samadhi true fire. Shizuke stepped on the ground covered with a layer of ash, his left eye was scarlet, and his right eye was golden, exuding a cold and domineering aura, as if a huge monster was crawling behind him, opening its bloody mouth to the enemy. The pressure of momentum from the top of the food chain brought a real pressure, and the Hidden Cloud Village, led by Darui, couldn't help but feel a little palpitation. Shizuke sang with a strange tune, as if there were two voices superimposed on each other, echoing repeatedly in the cold night. This is the power of my lord, how can you ordinary people guess it? Darui suppressed his shock, a trace of black arcs wrapped around him, burning the air, revealing a little burnt smell, a pair of honest and firm eyes, staring at Shizuke closely, and said. It seems that you and the people behind you are the masterminds of this attack. As long as I catch you, I can force you to tell me the information about the people behind the scenes. Shizuke stood proudly, his eyes were cold, and he said disdainfully. Just you. Darui was wrapped in black arcs all over his body, stepped on his feet, and shot out like a cannonball, turning into a black light and breaking through the air towards Shizuke. Due to the high speed, he actually left a visible afterimage on the spot, and a vague voice came out in the night. That's right, just rely on the 3 words of Darui. At the same time, Darui's right hand emitted endless dazzling black electric light, and a sizzling sound of electricity burst out, turning into a ferocious cheetah. Thunder Escape. Black Spot Difference. Sasuke's 3 Megatama Sharingan opened to the extreme. Darui's speed beyond the dynamic vision of ordinary people was traceable in his eyes. Shizuke shook his body, staggered, and dodged Darui's right hand that was like a tiger digging out his heart in the surprised eyes. Immediately afterwards, Sasuke's footsteps flashed, and he was not afraid of the black arcs wrapped around Darui's body. He rushed forward, his 5 fingers formed claws, and the samadhi true fire rotated rapidly, condensed into a samadhi raise nan, and fell on Darui's abdomen with a bang. The samadhi true fire was unstoppable, breaking through the black arcs and Darui's body defenses with a crushing force, and the flames spurted out, burning Darui in an instant. Darui opened his eyes wide in horror. At this moment, he suddenly understood why those men died so quickly. Because this was not an ordinary flame. Oh! No! Darui was shocked and angry. In the last second before death, a trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes, and he blew himself up. Crackling! Crackling! The black arcs wrapped around Darui suddenly ran away, turning into a human-shaped walking hedgehog, and arcs spread out like spears. Shizuke was closest to Darui and was directly attacked by Darui in retaliation. Boom! The dark electric light flashed and became a thunderball, which was daunting. Gurgle. Gui Deng Shuiyu secretly twisted the beheading sword on the ground, looked back and saw this scene, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and said with lingering fear. Oh my god, it's such a big deal, Sasuke won't die, right? When he thought about how angry Yu Yi would be if Sasuke, who was a favorite of the Lord, died here, Hojiki felt unsure. He looked left and right, and prepared to escape from this place of trouble while no one was paying attention to him. However, Hojiki hadn't taken a few steps when a steady and powerful hand grabbed his shoulder from behind. Sasuke said coldly with a hint of murderous intent. Suizuki, where are you going? Hearing this familiar voice, Hojiki turned his head stiffly. Seeing that Sasuke was intact, except for his torn clothes, he seemed to be fine, Hojiki quickly changed his expression and said enthusiastically. I told you, Sasuke, you are a lucky person, you will definitely not die so easily. Sasuke glanced at him coldly, and said in an unquestionable tone. No. This is all a gift from my lord. Hojiki was not embarrassed to flatter the horse's leg, and immediately changed his attitude, nodded, and said. Yes, 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 this is all thanks to the Lord's blessing. Next, with Sasuke and Hojiki working together, they were like a straight steel gun, directly killing through the cloud-hidden army here. The two joined forces, as if they were in an empty space, and there were corpses everywhere behind them. Until they met the man who was as burly as a black bear. Chapter 84. A bright moon hangs high in the sky, and the moonlight is hazy, like silver flakes pouring down. A middle-aged man stands at the end of the street, with a body as burly as a black bear, and looks to be in his 50s or 60s, with a rough appearance, dark skin, bulging muscles, and white hair combed back, like a lion, showing domineering and wildness. He closed his eyes slightly, looking at the corpses of Union on the ground. He recognized that the number of this unit was the Raikage Guard. Since they were all dead, Darui, the leader of the guard, was probably also in trouble. Instantly, Sasuke and Kizuki felt a chill all over their bodies. They felt a strong and fierce momentum from the middle-aged man in front of them, like a dragon in the deep sea surging up, wanting to churn up the entire ocean and make it restless. Between heaven and earth, it seemed as if there was a heavy pressure like Mount Tai, and it was like thousands of ferocious beasts were staring at Sasuke and Suijutsu. When he saw the man at the end of the street, slowly coming step by step, Suijutsu immediately covered his chest and sobbed. Raikage, Raikage. A person's name is the shadow of a tree. This generation of AI is known as the strongest Raikage of all generations. He has made great achievements in battle and has established countless legends on the battlefield. Even Suijutsu grew up listening to his stories. Now, when this living legend came, Suijutsu couldn't help holding his breath, his legs couldn't help trembling, and his heart was even more distressed. He secretly said. This is a pill. Sasuke was a newborn calf who was not afraid of tigers. Instead, his eyes were eager to try. He licked his mouth and said excitedly. Raikage. It's just right. If I cut off your head and offer it to the master, my master will definitely be very happy, right? Crackle. Crackle. The fourth generation Raikage had a gloomy face and did not speak. Blue arcs of electricity leaped on his body, lingering around him and began to shrink, like a layer of sponge, like a colloid formed by countless biological tissues, and like a ball of light cocoon, wrapping AI's whole body tightly. His muscles began to swell, and the blood in his body flowed like lead liquid, making a rumbling roar, and the whole body was full of electric light. The monstrous murderous aura and majestic pressure swept out, which was breathtaking. At this moment, he didn't look like a human at all. Instead, he looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex wearing human skin. The breath of domineering spread in all directions, the ground trembled slightly, and deep cracks of different sizes appeared under his feet. Small stones floated in the air, making him look like the arrival of Thor. Bang! The fourth generation Raikage stepped on the ground and shot out. Quick! As fast as lightning. Sasuke's Sharingan opened angrily, but unfortunately, unlike the original work, he did not kill Uchiha Itachi at all, let alone open the Mangeki Sharingan. With the 3 Magatama Sharingan alone, he could not catch the trace of the Raikage at all. It took less than a second. The fourth generation Raikage crossed the distance of nearly 1,000 meters between the two sides, opened his bows left and right, and pinched Sasuke and Hojiki's necks with both hands, lifting them up high as if he was holding a chicken. The fourth generation Raikage looked at the two and said disdainfully. I didn't expect that you two trash would kill Darui. Hojiki was shocked and horrified. He still hasn't reacted to what happened just now. Although he was about to die, Sasuke looked relaxed and said. Fourth generation Raikage, you finally jumped out. This voice was not Sasuke's original voice, but came from Yi. The fourth Raikage's heart was filled with alarm. As a great hero, he was extremely decisive in killing. He even abandoned the hostages he had taken. He dodged in an instant and avoided the place he had just been. Boom! Like a volcanic eruption, a pillar of fire gushed out from the place where the fourth Raikage had just been. It was like a real dragon going up against the sky, with a huge momentum that shook the whole world. The area within a radius of 1 kilometer was covered by the pillar of fire, and everything including houses, roads, trees, corpses, etc. was burned to ashes. The light of the Samadhi true fire was dazzling, directly illuminating the entire night like daylight. The fourth Raikage deserved to be called the Blue Lightning. The speed of his instant body technique was comparable to that of Minato Namikaze, and he easily avoided the trap carefully arranged by Yi. He landed on a roof, frowned at the fire column in front of him, and said. You actually used your subordinates as bait to trap me. In the fire column formed by the Samadhi true fire, Sasuke was intact. After all, he inherited Yi's innate ability. As for Kazuki, he was deader than dead. Every drop of water was evaporated by the Samadhi true fire, and by the way, he also contributed a wave of swallowing evolution genes to Yi. Immediately afterwards, a white giant python emerged from the sky-high fire column, like a silver hill, covered with fierce and cold silver scales. The scales were like molten iron. The two eyes were like lanterns, emitting cold and bloodthirsty light, and the murderous aura was overwhelming. The sharp saw teeth shaped like a broadsword were enough to bite countless creatures. The tail, more than 1 meter long, shaped like a steel whip, gently shook, disturbed the airflow, and formed a hurricane shock wave. Roar! Yi crossed the sky, roared to the sky, and burst out with a shocking momentum. Yi made a shocking appearance. He stared at the fourth Raikage with a sharp gaze, without any regret for the failure of the plan, but his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Looking at Yi's naked eyes, the fourth Raikage's face darkened, his expression was a little ugly, and he said angrily. Could it be? Are you the mastermind behind the invasion of the village? Yi answered calmly, saying. Yes. It's me. Instantly, the fourth Raikage's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and his shoulders trembled with anger. The fourth Raikage had anticipated many enemies, such as the old rival Konoha village, or the old sinister Tsuchikage Onoki of the Hidden Rock village. After all, in his eyes, there were only a few people in the huge ninja world who could be taken into his eyes and regarded as opponents. But the fourth Raikage never thought that the one who planned the invasion of the Hidden Cloud village was actually a white giant python? Is God kidding me? This joke is not funny at all. The fourth Raikage's eyes were glaring, he was panting, his dark old face was red, and his meridians were twisted on his muscles like the roots of an old tree, making him look extremely hideous and terrifying. I will kill you. Before the voice was fully heard, the fourth Raikage's body moved first, turning into thunder and lightning, and pounced on Yi's huge figure. Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank. He had experienced the unreasonable speed of the fourth Raikage, and hurriedly said to Yi. Master, be careful. Chapter 85. The murderous aura billowed from the sky, surging in all directions, and a blue stream of light streaked across the sky, bursting out into the sky and rushing towards Yu. Rumble! Rumble! The Yandere Raikage's speed was so fast that it caused the air to vibrate and made a loud roar like a Boeing airliner taking off. One can only imagine how amazing his speed was. To ordinary people, the fourth Raikage seems to have disappeared. Even if Sasuke's 3 Megatama Sharingan eyes were wide open, he couldn't catch the Raikage. However, Yuya is not a human, but a snake. How do snakes sense the location of prey? One is the skin, which relies on the skin to sense subtle vibrations from the ground or air. The second is to use the tongue to produce a sense of smell. The sense of smell is three-dimensional and can collect odors from different directions. The third is the built-in thermal sensor. There are deep cheek pits in the middle of the snake's eyes. This is the thermal sensor, which can accurately detect temperature changes. Even though the Yandere Raikage was as fast as thunder, in Yu's eyes, the temperature on his body formed an image of thermal radiation, as dazzling as a bright light in the dark night, and was tightly locked by Yu. Nato's cold moon-like eyes were shining with cold light, and it was true that he stared at the Yandere Raikage and started to kill. Although Nato's speed is not as amazing as that of the fourth Raikage, he is still faster than most people in the world, and he is extremely powerful and extremely terrifying. Boom! There was an explosion in the air. Yu swung his tail, and a white snake tail with dense scales, like it was made of molten iron, shone with a cold luster and had a metallic texture, sweeping across the thunder shadow. This explosive sound was extremely harsh, which showed how powerful Yu's speed and strength were. Even a small mountain would probably break apart if it was hit. A ray of captivating light appeared in the eyes of the Yandere Raikage. The movement became quiet, and he suddenly changed direction. His forehead almost brushed against the snake's tail scales, and a bunch of hair broke off directly, and then turned into a ray of light. Make powder! Call! The strong wind roared, leaving several wind marks on the ground. When the snake's tail swept past, Lei Ying's calf shook, and a thunderbolt spurted out along a small meridian, wrapping around his legs and feet. He stamped his feet, like a hungry tiger, and swept out a whip leg, like a blade of thunder. When opened and closed, it has the power of thousands of galloping horses. Thunder escape. Thunder plow hot knife. Use your feet as a knife and chop like an axe. Bite. The Yandere Raikage's inevitable blow landed on Nato's scales like steel bars and molten iron, and there was a sound of metal and stone colliding. A burst of sparks. The Yandere Raikage's expression changed. He felt his foot hit the steel plate, and a sense of tenacity rebounded. He couldn't help but cursed. What a hard bastard! That's it now. Yu very accurately seized the opportunity of a few tenths of a second, slapped the ground with his giant tail, and used this power to shoot out at the Raikage like an arrow from the string, and the huge mouth full of corrosive mucus fiercely bite out. The attack is extremely fierce. Due to the rapid speed, it actually made an explosion sound due to friction with the air. At this moment, Raikage is at a time when his old power has gone and new power has not yet emerged. Even though he is as fast as lightning, Nato's speed is only slightly slower. Snort! It's just a wild snake, don't even think of hurting me. Yu bit his head with a bloody mouth. Lei Ying, an expert in art, was brave enough to fall into Yu's mouth. He actually spread his arms, and the veins on his arms popped out, propping up Yu's upper and lower jaws. He was helpless. Swallow him down. The thunder shadow was furious and his eyes were split. The surface of its body was like countless tree roots condensed and entangled with thunder, and a dazzling lightning flashed across its eyes. Open it for me. A dazzling blue electric light burst out from Raikage's body. Nato was eating fish like a human being, with fish bones stuck in his neck. Before he could spit out the real fire of samadhi, he couldn't bear the sting of thunder in his mouth and vomited out the Yandere Raikage. It's all a long story. In fact, the brief confrontation ended in only 5 seconds. The Raikage was covered in saliva and turned somersaults in mid-air. There was a crackling sound on his body. The arc burned the air and evaporated the sticky saliva on his body into gas. Then, with a perfect movement that even a strong athlete could not complete, Raikage's legs landed firmly on the ground, plowing 2 scorching marks on the ground. His tiger eyes opened angrily, not angry but happy. He looked at Yuya with eyes that were like the joy of meeting an opponent in chess. He laughed boldly and said, "Okay. Okay. Okay. I have been in the ninja world for decades. In the past, I only thought that in the current ninja world, only that dead old man Onaki and the old bitch Tsunade from Konoha could serve as my opponents. I didn't expect you, a white python of unknown origin, to be my opponent. You can actually block my attack. An opponent like you is worthy of my full strength." Thunder escaped chakra mode. The Yandere Raikage clenched his fists, and violent chakra surged out of his body, turning into dazzling thunderbolts surrounding it, like violent thunder pythons, swimming around the body, turning into a thunder battle armor. In thunder release chakra mode, Raikage concentrates thunder attribute chakra on his body, thus covering his whole body with chakra and thunder and lightning. This move can further activate cells, gain further astonishing speed, and at the same time gain unparalleled defense power. The 4th generation Raikage seemed to be furious, his hair stood up like steel needles, as if he had transformed into a super saiyan, arcs of electricity jumped on his hair, and a flash of lightning flashed in his tiger eyes. He said to Yi loudly, "Since I have practiced this move to perfection, I have never lost. This move of mine has never defeated an unknown person. Tell me your name, unknown white python." Yu Yi grinned, revealing his steel-like fangs, and said, I will not change my name, my surname is Yu, and my name is Yet. The fourth generation Rakage stomped his right leg on the ground at a speed that ordinary people could not see. It was like stepping on a splash of water. A ripple spread on the ground, and the fourth generation Rakage's burly body shot out, and the words he uttered came late. You should feel honored to die under this move of mine. Quick! As fast as thunder. This time, even Yu Yi couldn't react in time, and the fourth Rakage came in front of him. Raito Ninja meets Sudoyure Sword. A stream of extremely pure lightning attribute chakra wrapped around the fourth Rakage's right arm, and even his flesh, tendons, bones, and skin were almost stained with blue lightning, undergoing a qualitative change. When all the lightning rushed to the fist and turned into twisted rivers, it burst into brilliant lightning, dazzling and dazzling, like the sun. Chapter 86. Drink. As the Yandere Rakage shouted loudly, thunder suddenly flashed all over his body. In less than a second, his clenched right fist struck Nato's body 100 times at an extremely fast speed, like steel bars poured from molten iron. On the snake body. Boom, 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 boom. Like a perpetual motion machine wound up by clockwork, Rakage whipped around like a pile driver, his fierce fists striking in an almost unlimited combo, violent airflow overflowing, and a Category 8 hurricane blowing around him. Under the Yandere Rakage's casserole-sized fist, Nato's steely scales deformed violently, dented, then cracked inch by inch, and then exploded, exposing the tender snake meat to the arc-laced punch. For a time, flesh and blood exploded, muscles and bones were broken. Even the snake body that Yuya entangled in layers was blown apart one after another. Hiss! Yuya let out a scream of pain that echoed through the sky. Seeing the Yandere Rakage rushing into the snake's body with great force, trying to blow himself up, a very fierce look flashed in Yuyi's eyes. Nato did not dodge, because he knew that with his own speed, it was impossible to dodge the Yandere Rakage's current speed. Moreover, he never thought of hiding. Call! From the broken snake body, little sparks flew out, and then, balls of fire shot out, like beans, pouring down on the fourth Rakage. Feeling the heat coming from all over his body, the fourth generation Rakage had penetrated deeply into the snake's flesh. Recalling the ferocious flames before, he felt something bad in his heart. The figure of the Yandere Rakage suddenly froze, an electric arc flowed through his calf, he stamped his foot at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye, stepped hard on the snake body under his feet, turned around and ran away. But he wanted to run, but Yuya would not give him this chance. Talent, primary regeneration. The snake body cut off by the Yandere Rakage, under Yuyi's talent at all costs, the flesh sprouts protruded out like tentacles, unconsciously floating in the air, connected together according to instinct, recondensed into snake meat, and once again scales grew out like steel bars poured from molten iron. This process is extremely fast. When the Yandere Rakage turned around, he was shocked and horrified to find that the path he had opened before was actually blocked by layers of snake bodies. There was the Samadhi true fire on the top, and there were entangled snake bodies on the left, right, front, and bottom. Flames started to burst out from its body continuously, chasing and blocking the Yandere Rakage and forcing him to a dead end. Yuya made full and flexible use of his natural abilities, and suddenly turned decay into magic, turning his original disadvantage into an advantage. Damn! The fourth generation Rakage was frightened by Nato Zioqiang's vitality, which was comparable to the eight-tailed Jayaki. At the same time, for the Samadhi true fire that surged in like a tidal wave from all around, the fourth generation Rakage's heart was ringing with alarm bells, constantly reminding him of the danger. With no way to avoid it, the Yandere Rakage would not just stop at nothing and quickly formed seals with his hands. Thunder escape. Thunderstorm. The bright moonlight was suddenly shrouded in clouds, which became thicker and thicker, becoming as dark as a million crows covering the sky and the sun. A strong wind suddenly came up, and suddenly the sky was dark and the earth was dark, with flying sand and rocks, as if the sky was about to fall. Sudden. Thunder shook from high in the sky, and thunderbolts as thick as a bucket fell down, attacking Yuyi's huge snake body like a mountain. At the same time, the sky seemed to be broken open, and heavy rain poured down. The huge rainwater turned into a waterfall and hung upside down, threatening to extinguish the true fire of Samadhi. Rain can extinguish fire. Is this common sense? Pity. The Yandere Rakage didn't notice the playful look in Nato's eyes. The Yandame Rakich's body is inside a coiled snake body, constantly moving in a small space, avoiding the flames from all directions. However, as time goes by, the space he can move becomes smaller and smaller, and he will be burned to death by the true fire of Samadhi just around the corner. In the small space, a large amount of oxygen was consumed by the fierce fire. The fourth generation Rakich's breathing became more and more rapid. The veins on his neck were twisting like roots of an old tree. He was panting like an ox and his face was red. Seeing the fire approaching slowly around him, the fourth Rakich's eyes showed despair. Why didn't the rain put out the flames? Nato held his head high, holding on to the thunder and lightning bombarding his body. His mouth was still spitting out the true fire of Samadhi, and he did not answer. Not getting any reply, a stern look flashed in the Yandame Rakich's eyes. Fight him! In this desperate situation, the fourth Rakich had no good solution. Earth escape? What he stepped on was Yu Yi's snake body. Where did the earth escape come from? What's more, being surrounded by the true fire of Samadhi from top to bottom, left, right, and front, it's already an unstoppable path. In desperation, he had no choice but to make the last resort, relying on the thunder and lightning armor on his body, and rushed into the sea of fire in an attempt to escape. If this was just a sea of fire formed by ordinary fire escape, the fourth generation Rakich's idea would undoubtedly be established. However, this is the true fire of Samadhi. It's not Amaterasu's kind of thing that can't burn anyone. When the fourth Rakich rushed into the sea of fire with the determination to die, his fate was already decided. Call. The flames fell on his body and burned him into a human-shaped fire stick in just an instant. The lightning battle armor he wore only lasted for less than a second before being swallowed up by the Samadhi true fire. Then, the fourth Rakich was burned until there was no residue left. The fourth generation Rakich fell. The next moment, the thunderstorm stopped, the dark clouds in the sky faded, revealing a bright moon. The hazy moonlight fell on Yu Yi, his silver scales shone with sparkling luster, a snake head as big as a house was raised, and the snake hissed, making him look arrogant. The Rakich is dead, and those who surrender will not be killed. The huge roar resounded through the sky, and the thunder pierced the ears. Everyone in the hidden cloud village could hear it clearly. At the same time, Yu Yi's subordinates seemed to be injected with chicken blood. While sighing in their hearts that they were worthy of being the supreme master, they also took the opportunity to roar loudly, in order to hit the morale of the hidden cloud village and disintegrate the determination of the hidden cloud village to resist. The Rakich is dead, those who surrender will not be killed. The Rakich is dead, those who surrender will not be killed. Like a spark of fire, with Yu Yi as the center, the voice spread out in all directions like a prairie fire, one after another, shocking the mind. At this moment, the Cloud Hidden clan stopped their actions and looked in the direction where the first voice came from. However, they saw that under the moonlight, a huge white python was entangled in the Rakich office building, with its head held high, looking like an eagle and a wolf, and a pair of lantern-sized pupils flashed a fierce light, arrogant. Chapter 87. The Hidden Cloud Village. Inside the Rakich building. Looking out the window, Yu Yi's huge snake body is like the roots of an old tree, winding around the outside of the building, and the staff inside are all in a state of panic. Of course, there are also many Anbu of the Hidden Cloud Village who want to kill Yu Yi. But the result is often gone forever. This exacerbates the internal gloom. As the secretary of the Rakich, Ma Bai is an intellectual and beautiful lady. She is usually calm and composed. But at this time, Ma Bai is out of character, like an ant on a hot pot, anxiously turning around, worrying about the life of the Rakich and her own future. Ma Bai is wearing a secretary's uniform, which sets off her beautiful figure with a different charm, but the sweat that flows out has already soaked her clothes, but the beauty-loving Ma Bai did not pay attention, but just kept worrying. As the right-hand man of the Rakich and the leader of the part-time perception unit, Xi waved his hands impatiently, looking depressed. Enough, stop circling in front of me, I'm so annoyed. It would have been fine if he didn't speak, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he irritated Ma Bai, who scolded him. What's wrong with me? Why are you talking to me so loudly? If you weren't a useless member of the perception unit, would you have allowed the enemy to march straight in? As the saying goes, don't reason with women. Because women won't reason with you at all. Xi felt his temples throbbing and his head ached. But for the sake of the overall situation, Xi still patiently said. The most urgent thing now is to think about how to break the situation, rather than the two of us arguing here. Ma Bai threw the documents in his hand on Xi and said angrily. Then you tell me what to do. Xi is worthy of being the right-hand man of the Raikage. Even in the current situation, he still thinks of a way out of a hurry and said. Ma Bai, use the heavens sending technique quickly to send the information here to Kirabi who is staying outside the village. Ma Bai's eyes lit up. She was so anxious just now that she forgot about this ninjutsu. The heavens sending technique is not affected by any conditions or regions, and can transmit any object to any place at the speed of light. In the original work, Ma Bai used this trick to transmit the amber bottle to the battlefield in the Fourth Ninja World War, allowing everyone to defeat Kinkaku. Xi, are you saying that we should ask Kirabi to rush back to the village for rescue? No. In Mabi's surprised eyes, Xi said firmly. On the contrary, you should sternly warn Kirabi in the letter you deliver not to act on impulse and not to rush back. Let him first gather the ninjas who are scattered outside to do missions, and call back the army deployed on the national defense line to wipe out these invaders with absolute advantage. As mentioned earlier, because the Cloud-Hidden village has been peaceful for a long time, most of the ninjas in the village are doing missions outside, so the village is particularly empty, and Yu Yi seized the opportunity. It can be said that once Xi's plan succeeds, relying on the foundation of the Cloud-Hidden village for many years, with the advantage of numbers, it is enough to kill Yu Yi's group. Unfortunately, Xi overlooked one point, which is the most important point. That is, human nature. Whether Xi's plan succeeds or not, it will bury all the Cloud-Hidden village who stay in the village. This, of course, also includes Mabi. Mabi is a smart woman, otherwise she wouldn't be able to take the position of Raikage's personal secretary. The key is obvious. The smarter the person, the more complicated their thoughts are. If Mabi is asked to sacrifice her life for the Fourth Raikage, she will definitely choose to sacrifice herself without hesitation. After all, Mabi is valued by the Fourth Raikage. She was promoted from an ordinary ninja to the position of personal secretary step by step, and then trained to become a senior ninja, which is tantamount to a second life. But now, the Fourth Raikage is very likely to be dead, and Mabi will not sacrifice herself for such a big village. You know, the enemy has said before that as long as you surrender, they will not kill people. Don't believe it? Didn't you see Yu Yi coiling around the Raikage building for so long without any unnecessary killing? Except for those Anbu ninjas who insisted on hitting the nail, the ninjas including Mabi and Xi were all safe. This is the evidence. It can be said that the strategy of not killing Yu Yi's surrender has been successful. Ma Bai's beautiful eyes flickered, and the balance in her heart was wavering. In the end, it was the instinct of survival that defeated the lofty ambition of sacrificing her life for the village. Of course. Ma Bai is a smart woman. She will not express her position in front of Xi, but only cater to him on the surface, saying, "Okay, I'll send a message to Kirabi right now." Xi felt very tired. Within the range of perception, one companion after another died, which made him feel guilty to the extreme. He felt that all this was caused by his dereliction of duty. Xi lay on the sofa with a tired face, waved his hand, and said, "Go, remember to remind Kirabi, never act on impulse." Ma Bai nodded and walked out. She looked back at the house and found that Xi did not suspect anything. Then she pretended to be calm and walked to the roof. Along the way, she saw all kinds of life. Some people committed suicide out of despair, some locked themselves in their houses and made useless prayers, or some dragged women to a corner and acted madly to the end, revealing all kinds of ugly behaviors. Ma Bai was very careful and cautiously avoided the attention of her colleagues. She used the instant body technique to hurry on her way. After a while, she arrived at the rooftop. As soon as Ma Bai climbed onto the rooftop, what caught her eye was a huge snake head as big as a house. A pair of snake pupils as big as lanterns shone with golden light, as if real eyes fell on her. A unique smell of snakes came to her nose, and the aura from the creatures at the top of the food chain enveloped the four directions. In an instant, Ma Bai felt a huge pressure falling on her shoulders, and her legs trembled involuntarily. But in order to survive, Ma Bai's eyes flashed with a trace of determination, and she walked forward with her head held high. Seeing this, Yu Yi showed curiosity and said, "What are you doing?" Ma Bai bowed and said humbly, "Sir, I am here to surrender to you." In order to win Yu Yi's trust, Ma Bai said what Xi had just said one by one, and sold out his teammates completely. After saying that, Ma Bai's heart was pounding, holding his breath, nervously waiting for the decision of fate. With Yu Yi's perception, he had already known everything that happened in the Reikage building, including the conversation between Ma Baiai and Xi. However, what he didn't expect was that Ma Baiai chose to live in disgrace in the end. To be honest, this is the first Kumigakure ninja who surrendered to Yu Yi. This gave Yu Yi a bold idea. Chapter 88. It has been nearly an hour since Nato killed the fourth Reikage. But after such a long time, no one from Kumigakure surrendered except Ma Baiai. On the one hand, this is because Union Village has lived in a harsh growing environment all year round. The people here have long forged a tough personality. They have a wolf nature in their bones and will not surrender easily. On the other hand, it is also because Nato and his party are absolute invaders. For the sake of their family and friends, the Kumigakure naturally have to do their best and defend their homeland to the death. Previously, this situation troubled Yu Yi very much. If Kumigakure continues to fight to death and refuses to surrender, even if Yu Yi's side annihilates them all, his own power will be greatly damaged. Don't forget, Yu Yi's current power is composed of 3 parts: Rika Cave, the remnants of Oto Ninja Village, and the ninjas of Xiao Ninja Village. The snakes in Longdi Cave, except for those big snakes with brains, Yu Yi can use them as cannon fodder at any cost to be consumed on the front line. But Yu Yi cares a lot about the other 2 groups of human beings. He needs these people to help him manage the huge power, and he also needs them to take over the territory he has conquered. So, here comes the problem. How to solve the current dilemma? The answer is actually very simple. That is, Yu Yi supports a puppet Reikage in Union Village. As the personal secretary of the 4th generation Reikage, Mabi has extensive connections in Kumigakure, is very well known, and has the strength to reach the level of Jounin. Of course, it was also because Ma Baiai was the first to surrender so that she could be controlled by Nato. Once Nato helped Ma Baiai up and sat on the Reikage seat, the nature of this war completely changed. It is no longer an invasion by foreign enemies, but a rebellion carried out by Ma Baiai in collusion with outsiders for her personal ambition. This can further weaken the determination of Kumigakure to resist. Seeing the giant white python in front of him being speechless for a long time, Azabi saw a pair of lantern-sized pupils flashing with light from time to time. His shoulders trembled involuntarily, his teeth chattered, and he was frightened and suspicious in his heart, thinking to himself. Is he thinking about how to eat me? Braised, pan-fried, steamed, fried? Gee, why are all these things on my mind? Just when Ma Baiai's mind was in confusion and tangled into a ball of twine, a breath of wind blew towards her face and blew her hair away from her shawl. Ma Baiai's delicate body trembled, and she suddenly came back to her senses, and saw Yu Yi opening his bloody mouth. Ah! Ma Baiai let out a high-decibel soprano scream and fell to the ground. Her legs were so frightened that they became weak and spasmed. Her face turned pale and she said. Don't eat me. I'm really here to surrender. Yu Yi looked embarrassed. Do I have such a strong taste? Why didn't I know? Yu Yi had forgotten that he had eaten rats and cockroaches alive. His face suddenly became solemn, and he said in a solemn tone. Do you want to be the Reikage? The sound was like the ringing of a bell, like a thunderous flag and drum, and like a thunderbolt from the blue, it echoed in Ma Baiai's ears, causing her complexion to change. What did he just say? Do I want to be the Reikage? Azabu suddenly raised his head and saw a snake message more than 1 meter long spitting out of Yu Yi's mouth. It had scarlet forks, like a halberd or a sword, with well-proportioned fangs and traces of highly corrosive saliva. Tick-tock dripped down. This. I can't give him an answer that satisfies him. Is he going to eat me? Abai, who is obviously such an intellectual and smart woman, is almost crying now, with tears in her beautiful eyes, which makes me pity her. If it were a man, he would probably be rude to her and look for an opportunity to have an in-depth communication with her. Unfortunately, Yu Yi is a snake. Even if Azabu's beauty is delicious, Nato's upper body has ideas, but his lower body can't do anything. Azabu looked at Yu Yi pitifully, considered for a moment, carefully, hesitantly, and said. I want to be the Reikage. As soon as he finished speaking, Ma Baiai saw Nato suddenly raise his head, and a rumbling sound filled his ears. Great, you made the right decision. After several frights, Ma Baiai's fragile little heart has been tempered to withstand pressure, and this time she did not show her ugly face. But she still couldn't help but ask. Sir, if you want to become a Reikage, you need to be canonized by the name of the Land of Thunder. Before she finished speaking, Yuya interrupted. I said you are the Raikage, you are the Raikage. Yu Yi's words were murderous and extremely domineering. If the name of the Kingdom of Thunder is disobedient, Yuya doesn't mind changing the name of the Kingdom of Thunder. Abai is worthy of being a woman who can step by step from an ordinary ninja to the Raikage's personal secretary. In addition to her beautiful face and well-proportioned figure, what's more important is that she has a smart mind. She quickly corrects her mentality and puts herself in the right position. Think of him as someone from Nato's side. After Mabai regained her composure, the intellectual and smart female secretary from the past came back again. As soon as her mind turned around, she understood the meaning of Yu Yi's words. She frowned and made suggestions for Yu Yi, saying, Sir, if you want to support me to become the Raikage, I think this is easier said than done. Oh! Yu Yi's eyes were surprised. He didn't expect Mabai to change so quickly. He felt like he had found a treasure and asked. You should come and listen. After getting Nato's approval, Mabai was convinced. At the same time, Mabai couldn't help but feel a sense of ambition. She will become the first female Raikage in the history of Hidden Cloud Village. To be honest, the world of Naruto is a world that values boys over girls. If a woman wants to become a shadow, in addition to strength, talent, and emotional intelligence, she also needs to pay more. In the entire ninja world, there are only a handful of women who can become Kage. One is Tsunade, a princess of the Senju clan, with a distinguished status and powerful strength. She is also the apprentice of the third-generation Hokage. She deserves to be the Hokage. One is Terumi Mei, who has 2 blood inheritance limits, and comes from a big family. With her iron fist, she has fought her way to the position of Mizu Kage. Which of these 2 women is worse than the man? And now, Mabai also has the opportunity to taste what it's like to be a Raikage. How can she not be excited as a commoner? The flame of ambition appeared in her eyes. Mabai stuck out her tongue, licked her thirsty and chapped lips, and said respectfully. My lord, my method is very simple. The first point is to eradicate the wealthy families in the village and seize their wealth and ninjutsu scrolls for many years. The second point is to promote ninjas from civilian backgrounds and make them the top leaders and backbone of the village, and provide them with ninjutsu scrolls collected from wealthy families for free. Chapter 89. The world of Naruto is a world of class solidification. The birth of bloodline limit created many wealthy families, such as the Uchiha, Hyuga, Sarutobi families of Konoha village, which have long controlled the village's high-level and key departments. To put it bluntly, every ninja war is a game between those top families. It is conceivable how difficult it is for civilians to rise in such a desperate world. The ninja world finally produced a civilian genius, Orochimaru. With the help of science, he could have turned the ninja world upside down. Unfortunately, in the original work, he could not stir up any waves. In addition to increasing the amount of chakra, civilian ninjas have to learn more powerful ninjutsu if they want to become stronger. However, those ninjutsu listed as A-level, S-level, or even forbidden, have long been monopolized by wealthy families. If civilian ninjas want to learn, they must either make great contributions to the village or join the wealthy families and become peripheral members, working like slaves for a lifetime. And now, the suggestion that Mabai gave Yu Yi was to directly cut off the backbone of the wealthy family. Yu Yi looked a little strange, which reminded him of the famous saying of the ancestor of the flower-growing family. Fight the local tyrants and divide the land. Yu Yi did not expect that someone in this world would actually make similar suggestions, which made Yu Yi value Mabai even more. Some people are usually unknown, but as long as they are given a platform to take off, they will shine with a unique light. Obviously, Mabai is this type of person. Under Mabai's uneasy gaze, Yu Yi's voice like a bell sounded in her ears. Yes. With Yu Yi's approval, Mabai was ecstatic and excited to throw herself into his arms. Fortunately, reason prevailed in the end, allowing Mabai to calm down, bow 90 degrees, and respectfully said. I will not let you down, sir. Yu Yi's mind moved, and Sasuke, who was killing the Kumigakure around him, suddenly stopped his actions, rushed to the Raikage building at the fastest speed, and came to Yu Yi. Sasuke half crouched on the ground, pressed his fist on the ground, and lowered his head slightly, saying, My lord. Yu Yi nodded and said. Mabai, next, let me, your subordinate, help you persuade others to surrender and reorganize the Kumigakure village. Mabai looked at Sasuke deeply, and knew in her heart that this handsome boy was here to monitor her. This was also reasonable, after all, she had just joined Yu Yi's side, and there was no deep trust between the two sides. But Ma Bai believed that sooner or later, she would become a popular person in front of the master. I will obey your order. Ma Bai took the order and left, accompanied by Suzuki and his eagle squad. Yu Yi didn't know how Ma Bai persuaded those stubborn cloud-hidden village to surrender when she arrived on the battlefield. But Yu Yi only knew that soon after she left, there were waves of suppressed cheers from the battlefield. Those were the heartfelt cheers of the cloud-hidden village civilians. As for those cloud-hidden villagers who came from wealthy families, they had already turned pale, and were then killed by their original teammates, becoming the capital for Yu Yi to join Yu Yi. Yu Yi coiled his snake body around the Reikage building, listening to the shouts and killings in the cloud-hidden village that gradually weakened, with a smile on his face. Humans are a kind of herd creature. When they see others doing something, they will subconsciously follow suit. With the first batch of cloud-hidden village surrendering, Ma Bai persuaded them to surrender at a very fast speed. On the street, Ma Bai led his cloud-hidden village to march rapidly and rushed into the wealthy families in the village one after another. Then, they strung the people inside and drove them out in groups, and looted all the wealth and property accumulated by the wealthy families for decades or even hundreds of years, as well as the precious ninjutsu scrolls. The wealthy families in the entire cloud-hidden village, except for the members of the family who were scattered to other places, were all destroyed overnight. While persuading them to surrender, Ma Bai did not forget the task that Yu Yi had given her to reorganize the cloud-hidden village. Ma Bai sent his subordinates, the cloud-hidden, to find the refuges where the people were hiding from the war and publicize their own ideas and policies. First, the children of ordinary people can not only enter the ninja school for free, but also get scholarships. Second, the cloud-hidden village will be exempted from all taxes in the next 3 years. Ma Bai was not worried at all that the village would not be able to operate because of the lack of money. The huge wealth gained from those wealthy families alone was comparable to the tax revenue of the cloud-hidden village in the past 10 years. As soon as these two policies came out, they were immediately welcomed by the people, and they cheered loudly. They didn't care about the change of Reikage, but only cared about their own interests. Obviously, Ma Bai becoming the new Reikage could bring them unprecedented benefits. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse, and the magpies flew south. Ma Bai finally pacified the hidden cloud village. With a group of hidden clouds behind him, he came to the Reikage building to meet Yu Yi. My lord, I have fulfilled my mission. I have persuaded a total of 3,458 hidden clouds to surrender. As for a small number of stubborn people, I have eliminated them. As one of the 5 major ninja villages, the hidden cloud village naturally has more than this number of people. However, most of the people in the hidden cloud village are doing tasks outside, or guarding the long national defense line. Yu Yi can see that those surrendered hidden clouds are not depressed at all, but their eyes are full of hope and full of longing for the future. The common people in this world have been suppressed and exploited by the wealthy families for too long. Yu Yi gave them a chance to become superior, a chance to become strong. Even though he was a white python, he was still full of gratitude to Yu Yi. Very good. Ma Bai, you have done much better than I thought. Ma Bai lowered his head, not daring to show any behavior beyond the rules, still looking so humble, and said, "It is under your wise and powerful leadership that I can achieve such remarkable achievements." In the past, Yu Yi hated people who flattered, and always felt that such people were not pragmatic. But when it was Yu Yi's turn to be flattered, others had to try hard to cater to him, fearing that they would accidentally annoy him. Yu Yi felt that the power of life and death was so intoxicating. Wake up to the power of the world, sleep on the lap of a beauty. No wonder so many heroes and heroes from ancient times to the present have flocked to this, it is not without reason. Of course, Yu Yi was not immersed in this illusion. He knew very well that the reason why he won Mabi's respect and loyalty was due to his unparalleled strength. Only strength can be the capital to gain a foothold in the ninja world. As for how Mabi will deal with the scattered Kumagakure in other places, Yu Yi doesn't care so much. Next, it's time for him to deal with the 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee. I went to the hospital today because of a herniated disc. Please forgive me for not writing these 2 chapters well. Chapter 90. In the morning, the sun shines. In a valley a day's walk from cloud-hidden village. This is a deep mountain stream, with jasmine flowers swaying in front of the slope, goats jumping among the rocks, and shepherd boys following around. Some are playing reed flutes, and some are lying on the grass, looking up at the intertwined sky. There were extremely thin clouds, and the clear shadows reflected by them moved mistily among the early yellow wild grass. It's a pity that such a quiet and beautiful scenery was ruined by a sudden burst of singing like ghosts crying and wolves howling. Yo yo yo, it was spring, and a bolt of lightning flashed over the village. Lightning flashed, and a figure landed. He is Kumigakure's invincible little strong Kiribi. The eight-tailed Tsunabiki Kiribi, holding a sword in his hand. Oh, what a fast sword, what a fast sword! Kiribi's human sword merges into one. He is no longer a person, he is a sword man. The shepherd boys looked at each other with confused thoughts, as if they were saying, "Who is this idiot?" In their line of sight, a 1.9 meter tall man walked slowly over, holding a music book and gesticulating while mumbling words. He has a mature face, dark skin, flaxen hair, black sunglasses, a sloppy beard, 7 knives, the word iron on his right shoulder, and horn marks on his left cheek. He looks like a very weird middle-aged uncle. Well, girls usually call this kind of person a gentleman, bien, or a scholar, tai. Kiribi ignored the strange looks from the shepherd boys and continued to go his own way, passing by them. Sudden. The space around Kiribi rippled, spreading like water ripples. Even though Kiribi was usually aloof, as the 4th-generation Raikage's best partner, he was still vigilant. He immediately put on a fighting posture and his whole body muscles became tense. But who would have expected that a scroll would spit out from that inexplicable space and land in front of him? Is this a gift from heaven? Do you want to see me for anything? Kiribi recognized it at a glance as this was the famous skill of the Yandere Raikage's personal secretary, and picked up the scroll from the ground. The scroll is engraved with a curse seal, which is the highest level and is specially used to protect the most confidential documents. If you don't know the solution to the curse seal, forcibly cracking it will only cause the scroll to self-destruct and no information will be obtained. The expression on Kiribi's face was solemn, and he felt faintly uneasy. He no longer hesitated, and followed the seal decoding method taught by the Yandere Raikage, quickly forming seals with his hands and landing on the scroll. Untie. With a bang, the scroll opened automatically, and the tadpole-like ink characters automatically lined up in rows. The village is attacked by foreign enemies, please come back quickly for support. Kiribi's pupils suddenly shrank, and his whole aura changed. If he gave people a funny feeling just now, he seemed to be like a sleeping lion waking up, with a ferocious momentum rising straight into the sky. The few shepherd boys who passed by just now were pointing at Kiribi, talking and laughing, but at this moment, they all looked horrified and fell to the ground, with a fishy stench flowing out from between their legs. Of liquid. Even the goats herded by the shepherd boys were running wildly, hating their parents for not giving them a pair of wings to keep them away from this terrifying monster. It was as if the uncle in front of him had changed into a different person. Kiribi turned around, grinned at the shepherd boys, showing a row of clean teeth, and said, "Sorry, I scared you." It was okay that he didn't speak, but when he spoke, those poor children were so frightened that they turned pale and fainted. Well. Kiribi looked embarrassed, touched the back of his head, and simply turned away. Slipping away. The Kingdom of Thunder is surrounded by mountains, with numerous peaks. The peaks are 800 to 1,600 meters above sea level, majestic and overlooking Pingchuan. This topography has also caused inconvenient transportation here. Transportation is basically by walking, and communication is basically by shouting. For some reason, the closer Kiribi got to the village, the more uneasy he felt in his heart. It was as if Union Village was a giant beast with its mouth wide open, waiting for him to enter. Kiribi is a person who trusts his own intuition. His body that was running at a sudden stop suddenly stopped. He put his right hand on the handle of the knife at his waist, looked around cautiously with his eyes exposed. Very unexpected. The ground under Kiribi's feet suddenly bulged, and a bucket-thick ground thorn sprung up like bamboo shoots, threatening to pierce Kiribi through. It's too late. Hurry then. Kiribi turned aside and quickly drew out his sword. A stunning flash of sword light swept across it, directly cutting off the pointed thorn like a hot knife cutting through butter. The cut cross-section was smooth and flat, like a polished mirror. But this seems to be a signal of attack. Immediately afterwards, the entire ground shook like a lifted carpet. The wild-like protrusions of the thorns sprouted like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, and they were densely packed covering a mile in radius. The density was enough to drive any trypophobic person crazy. Bubble. 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 Kirabi's face remained unchanged, his toes pointed, like a butterfly in a flower, his strong body moved around nimbly among the thorns, and the terrifying thorns were like toys, without giving any attention at all. He inflicted only a few injuries. Kirabi keenly felt that the enemy was lurking underground. Under the sunglasses, a flash of light flashed through his eyes. The diagonal knife in his right hand was inserted into the ground. A flash of blue electricity appeared in his hand and was transmitted to the ground through the knife in his hand. "Who are you? Show yourself up." After saying this, Kirabi was feeling good about himself, and even had time to think about whether he should consider posing in a handsome way to cater to his boastful words. But the next moment, Kirabi was dumbfounded. Rumble! 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 The ground shook exaggeratedly, as if there was an 8-magnitude earthquake. The gravel on the surface bounced up and down, and the entire mountain shook violently. The big trees collapsed, and there were big rocks rolling down, a scene of mountains and rivers changing color. Then, the hilltop suddenly bulged, and a huge snake head suddenly emerged, shaking slightly, and the mud and rocks on its body fell off, and the towering trees that had taken root collapsed with a loud bang, raising a cloud of dust. A pair of pupils as big as lanterns burst out with a light as if it was real, passing through the heavy smoke and dust, and fell on Kirabi, with a sound like thunder, rumbling in the air. "Eight-tailed Jinchuriki Kirabi, I have been waiting for you here for a long time." Kirabi held a sword in his hand, with a dumbfounded look on his face. "This." Looking at Yuyi who was entrenched on the mountain, Kirabi was a little tearful. "I was just talking about that sentence, what kind of monster is this? Why did you take it seriously? How about we make a deal, and then you go back to sleep?" Chapter 91. The wind howled among the mountain peaks, stirring up light dust from the ground. Nato and Kirabi confront each other, seemingly calm but hiding a turbulent confrontation. Yuyi's eyes narrowed slightly and he looked at the other party. At this moment, Kirabi also looked at him. One person and one snake, their eyes met in the void and collided with invisible fire. Kirabi looked at Yuyi's huge snake body, entwining half of the mountainside. He swallowed secretly, held the knife in both hands, and said warily, "Your Excellency has been waiting for me here for a long time. Could it be that you are here to prevent me from supporting the village?" To Kirabi's expectation, Yuyi's thunderous voice sounded. "No, I'm just here to capture you." Kirabi laughed angrily, blue arcs flashed in his legs, stimulating the muscle cells in his legs, and he sneered. "I'm afraid it's not easy for you to grow to be as powerful as you are now. I advise you not to make mistakes, otherwise my elder brother will not let you go." Yuyi grinned, and his steel-like fangs were exposed in the air. His tone was solemn, just like the snow falling in June in the summer. Yuyi said with a grim expression. "Sorry, your eldest brother has been killed by me." "Impossible." Kirabi's first reaction was disbelief. His eldest brother, Ai the fourth Raikage, is the strongest Raikage in history. How could he be killed by this giant white python in front of him? "You are deceiving the public with your evil words, let me kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, Kirabi stepped on his feet, and heard a loud noise on the ground. It was like a detonating talisman detonating under his feet, and his figure had already burst out, killing Nato instantly, like a blue thunder. Thunder escape chakra mode. Quick. As fast as thunder. In this mode, Kirabi's movement skills are extremely fast, comparable to the teleportation technique. Seeing this familiar move, Yuyi smiled, but when it fell in Kirabi's eyes, he smiled extremely ferociously, with a vast murderous aura, and said, "Unfortunately, your thunder chakra mode is much inferior to that of your elder brother." Yuyi's giant tail swept across, carrying the sound of wind and thunder, whirring and stirring up a gust of wind and sand. Kirabi was caught off guard and had no time to stop. He only felt black shadows covering his eyes. With a muffled bang, a sharp pain shot through his body, and the scenery in front of him quickly receded. He was actually knocked out by Yuyi's tail flick. Even though Kirabi was so burly, his body was extremely flexible. He did a somersault in midair and landed on the ground. His feet plowed a meter-long mark on the ground before the impact force was removed. Kirabi clutched his chest, where he was injured. An ordinary Jounin would have died if he was hit by Nato's 100-ton giant tail, but for Kirabi, only a few bones were broken just now. At this moment, an evil and majestic chakra emerged from Kirabi's body. In just a blink of an eye, the injury healed instantly and returned to its original state. Is this the chakra of the eight-tailed Jayaki? Yu Yi's eyes narrowed, and he was secretly surprised. Compared with his talent, primary regeneration, it was much better. The eight-tailed beast is indeed the one with the strongest life-saving ability among the nine-tailed beasts. It is really durable. Kiribi realized that the opponent in front of him was difficult to deal with. Perhaps, as the other party said, his eldest brother had died in the other party's hands. Thinking of the death of his beloved eldest brother, Kiribi, a big man, had his eyes slightly reddened. He took out a total of 7 swords from his waist and back. The 7 swords were held by hands, mouths, armpits, and legs. Anyway, none of the parts of the body that could be used were spared by Kiribi, who put them in a nondescript fighting posture. However, that sharp sword intent is not fake at all. Thunder Escape. Supersonic Thunder Escape Sword. Under the cover of lightning, the white blade of the sword flashed with azure light. The weapon held by Kiribi was obviously sharper. One look at it made the pupils hurt, making people dare not look at it. Whoosh! Kiribi disappeared from the spot and instantly arrived within 7 inches of Yu Yi Snake's body. For any snake creature, 7 inches is where death lies. Die! Accompanied by Kiribi's roar filled with murderous intent, 7 knives were drawn at 7 different angles. The sharp edges flashed through the air, crisscrossing and blooming with dazzling light. The sword flashed past, and Kiribi squatted on the ground, assuming a posture that he thought was handsome. This is my own 7-sword style. If you can die under this technique, you will not be unjust. After saying that, Kiribi whistled and blew the bangs on his forehead, making a strand of hair flutter. Well, he feels so handsome. 1 second passed. 5 seconds passed. There was no cry of pain from Yu yet, nor was there any sound of collapse. This is different from what the script said. Kiribi turned his head mechanically, only to see that Yu Ye was staring at him with piercing eyes, as if he was looking at an idiot, with a playful look on his face, like a handful of the sharp knife stabbed hard into Kiribi's heart. Heartache. I was actually despised by a snake. Kiribi was so embarrassed. The embarrassment she had encountered in the past few decades was not as intense as it was today. Kiribi really wanted to stamp his feet and yell at Yu Ye. What are you looking at? But he glanced at the corner of his eyes and saw that the place where his sword fell just now did not even cover a layer of Yu Yi's skin, and it was still intact. The silver-white scales were shining in the sunlight. Kiribi opened his mouth and decided to swallow this sentence. It turned out that he was just being self-indulgent after all this time, and his defense was not broken at all. Yu Yi blinked his eyes, and a thunderous voice sounded. Have you seen enough? Kiribi nodded subconsciously when he heard the voice. If you have seen enough, then you can die. Yu Yi opened his mouth and sprayed a large ball of orange-red flames with platinum edges, like magma pouring down. Before it arrived, a heat wave came, curling Kiribi's hair, and his face was stinging with pain. Before Kiribi moved, the 8-tailed Ushiki in his body was terrified and shouted anxiously. Kiribi, get out of the way. It was the first time Kiribi saw the 8-tailed Ushiki showing such a horrified expression. Even when the 8-tailed was knocked down by the 4th Raikage alone, he never showed any fear. This flame could actually scare the 8-tailed Ushiki to change color? Although he had doubts in his heart, Kiribi still chose to believe in the 8-tailed. This is the tacit understanding that has been honed over the years, and it is also an unconditional trust in the 8-tailed. As soon as Kiribi left, the Samadhi true fire fell on where he was just now. The high temperature and heat dug 3 feet into the ground, extinguishing a large pit on the spot, comparable to the size of a basketball court. Hiss! Kiribi looked back and immediately took a breath of cold air. This flame is so terrifying. Chapter 92. Crack! 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 The Samadhi true fire lingered on the ground for a long time, like a pit the size of a basketball court. The soil was melted by the high temperature, emitting a strong smell of burning. Gurgle! Kiribi's pupils contracted, and he swallowed his saliva secretly, and he couldn't help but feel lucky in his heart. At this moment, the 8-tailed cow ghost reminded again in horror. That guy is coming again, get out of the way. Kiribi heard it, and his hair stood up immediately, and he turned over and dodged in embarrassment. Hey! Yu Yi opened his mouth and spit, and the surging flames pounced on him like a fierce claw, and the scorching heat even distorted the air and cleared it. The surrounding oxygen creates a short vacuum zone. Kiribi was horrified and didn't dare to be touched by the Samadhi true fire. With amazing speed, he began to run away. Want to run? Yi raised a mocking arc at the corner of his mouth, and slapped the ground with his snake tail. The huge snake body shot out like an arrow from a string, so fast that it even made a sonic boom in the air. Rumble! Rumble! The air vibrated violently, like the roar of a Boeing passenger plane taking off from far away. Kiribi felt the strong wind coming closer and closer behind him, and his face was bitter. Is this white python cheating? The flames that are like cheating, and the snake body that is invulnerable to swords and guns, how can people play with this? At the critical moment, the eight-tailed cow ghost gave him advice and said, Kiribi, it's not a good idea to escape like this, let me go quickly come out. Unlike the Jinkraki of other villages, Killer Bee has formed a deep bond with the eight-tailed Jaihoki, like a teacher and a friend, with deep feelings. Kiribi was not worried at all. After handing over the control of his body to the eight-tailed Jaihoki, it would flee the village alone. He nodded and said, Next, I'll leave it to you. Watch me. The eight-tailed Jaihoki was very confident. More evil and powerful chakra flowed out of Killer Bee's body, wrapping him up. Chakra gushed out crazily, like substance, condensing into octopus tentacles. The octopus tentacles whipped in the air, and they all wrapped around Yi's huge snake head, accompanied by a sound of breaking wind. It was like an iron hoop, binding Yi's snake head, and tightly wrapping his upper and lower jaws to prevent him from opening his mouth to spit out flames. Ahead a huge monster appeared at Kiribi's place, with a bull head as big as a house, and octopus tentacles under it, each of which was as thick as 10 people hugging together, like a towering tree. Seeing Yi's mouth locked by himself, the eight-tailed bull ghost said proudly, Ha ha ha! In this case, you can't spit out that terrifying flame just now, right? If Yi could speak now, he would definitely sneer at him. Little guy, isn't it good to be alive? Just when the eight-tailed bull ghost was happy, sparks suddenly emerged from Yi's huge snake body with white and gold borders and orange-red as the base. This kind of sparks is very familiar to the eight-tailed bull ghost. This is the Samadhi true fire. The sparks connected and gathered together, like a stream merging into a river, forming a surging momentum, rushing towards the 8 huge tentacles. Hot! Hot hot hot! The eight-tailed cow ghost had not felt pain for many years, but at this moment, he recalled this heart-wrenching burning pain. Seeing the fire raging and spreading along the tentacles to his body, the eight-tailed cow ghost was horrified. Thinking of the terrifying power of the flame just now, how could he dare to take it head-on? Like a gecko cutting off its tail to survive, the eight-tailed cow ghost was extremely decisive and directly cut off several tentacles and separated them from the body. Facts have proved that his judgment was correct. The tentacles that fell to the ground just jumped a few times and were burned into a pile of ashes by the Samadhi true fire, leaving no residue. My God, what kind of flame is this? Why is it so powerful? The eight-tailed cow ghost was in a state of shock and looked at Yi as if he was looking at a monster. Although it is also a monster in the eyes of others, it is far inferior to Yi, and it is simply a small witch meeting a big witch. Yi twisted his aching neck, making a crackling sound, and grinned at the eight-tailed bull demon, revealing rows of sharp teeth like knives and swords, and said, You just made me very unhappy. The eight-tailed bull demon's chakras seemed endless. The broken parts squirmed and grew tentacles as thick as 10 people hugging again. A trace of boiling fighting spirit flashed in his eyes. It doesn't matter, I will make you feel great later. The two monsters said some fantastic words, but the murderous aura in their words was enough to make ordinary people's hearts and gallbladders burst. The next moment, the eight-tailed bull demon rushed up first. It waved its huge tentacles, twisted them into fists, swept them like steel whips, or entangled them like old tree roots. The 8 tentacles were like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each showing its own ability. It played with various tricks and reached a new level. A tentacle monster with such potential as it will definitely be valued by many directors on Earth. Yi countered the attack, and while burning the tentacles close to him with Samadhi true fire, he charged forward with his huge snake body, opened his bloody mouth, and bit the eight-tailed bull demon. Who knew that the eight-tailed bull demon was very smart? It didn't want to be sprayed with Samadhi true fire by Yi at all. Once Yi got close to it, it opened its mouth and blew a breath comparable to a breakthrough in wind escape, which blew the Samadhi true fire off track. Samadhi true fire is indeed not afraid of being extinguished by ordinary water. However, Samadhi true fire is still affected by wind. Although Samadhi true fire will not be extinguished by such a small amount of wind, it is easy to be blown to the ground and it is not easy to hit the target. Seeing that there is a chance, the eight-tailed bull ghost is sure. What it fears most is the ability that cannot be solved. In that case, there is no need to fight at all, just commit suicide directly. Seeing that the Samadhi True Fire has loopholes to exploit, the eight-tailed bull ghost immediately let go of its timidity and fought with Yu Yi with its super speed regeneration ability. Boom! 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 The two monsters like small mountains fought fiercely, which can be said to be breaking mountains when they met them. Wherever they passed, the ground cracked, grass and trees did not grow, and landslides for 10 miles. Whether it was the majestic and magnificent mountains, the cascading waterfalls, or the dense forests, they were fighting everywhere, fighting from the east to the west, and back from the west. A snake and a cow demon, like two giant bulldozers, plowed the ground again and again, and the ground was full of crushed towering trees, in a mess. The sound of the two monsters fighting was like thunder, shaking the area for hundreds of miles. The ninjas in the hidden cloud village felt the violent tremors of the ground and the huge roars that kept coming. They all changed color and found a high place to stop and stare. Chapter 93. In the air, the violent fluctuations that tore the eardrums continued, and the lingering sound lingered. Everyone in the hidden cloud village was involuntarily attracted and each chose a high position to watch. The scene that came into view made everyone in the hidden cloud village gasp and feel cold in their hearts. However, in the distance, between the peaks, two monsters as big as hills were wrestling together. The aftermath of the battle between the two sides actually collapsed the mountaintops, and large tracts of forests were burned by huge flames. The ground was plowed over and over again, and the ground was desolate. The hidden cloud village people were naturally very familiar with the eight-tailed Jihoki. Seeing that it was being beaten by Yu Yi, everyone looked incredible. That, is that Lord Killer Bee? This? How is this possible? Oh my god, what did I see? The tailed beast was actually beaten by a summoned beast. Hiss! No wonder. No wonder even the fourth Raikage. As soon as he said this, the hidden cloud village realized that he had said something he shouldn't have said, and quickly shut up. He carefully looked around and found that no one blamed him, so he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The eyes of the people in Yunyan were complicated. Yunyan, who had some objections in their hearts, were shocked after seeing Yu Yi's great power and suppressed some of their thoughts. Ma Bai's beautiful eyes were shining, and her red lips opened with 3 parts of surprise and 7 parts of relief, saying, "The strength of the master is really amazing." After contacting Suzuki for a while, Ma Bai also learned from Suzuki and changed the way he addressed Yu Yi. He no longer called him sir, but called him master to show his firm position. On the side, Suzuki stood upright on the eaves, with his arms folded and his face stern. Suzuki glanced at this stupid woman, and said conceitedly in a matter-of-fact tone, "You will know in the future that you have only seen the tip of the iceberg of my master's strength. Woman, feel lucky. If you were not the first to surrender to my master, you would not be valued by my master." Ma Bai's delicate body trembled, and she understood the meaning of Sasuke's words. Obviously, her actions after surrendering were too obvious, which made Suzuki wary, and deliberately knocked her to let her know that there is only one favorite in front of Yu Yi, and that is Suzuki. Ma Bai's face turned slightly pale, and her beautiful eyes were shining, and soon returned to normal. She squeezed out a flattering smile and complimented. "Suzuki is right, and I have learned my lesson." Seeing that Ma Bai was so sensible, Suzuki couldn't suppress her anymore. After all, Yu Yi still had to use Ma Bai, the puppet Raikage, to rule the hidden cloud village. Suzuki looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, snorted coldly, and said, "It's best if you know." Yu Yi certainly didn't know the back. No, it was his subordinates who were jealous of him and fighting for power. At this moment, Yu Yi was feeling a pain in the ass for the powerful regeneration ability of the eight-tailed bull demon. Yu Yi's giant tail swept across like a pillar of the sky, smashing the eight-tailed bull demon into a mountain. Boom! In the huge bombardment, smoke and dust rose, the rock wall shattered, and a large pit of dozens of feet was knocked out. The mountain tilted and swayed in the earthquake, and almost tilted and collapsed. But the next moment, the eight-tailed bull demon climbed out of the big pit, but it was intact and nothing happened. Using the idiom thick skin and thick flesh to describe the eight-tailed bull demon is an insult to the 4 words thick skin and thick flesh. The eight-tailed Jihoki, with his almost endless chakra, would cut off his tail to survive whenever he was attacked by Yu Yi's Samadhi True Fire, cut off part of his body, and then quickly regenerate, which disgusted Yu Yi. Yu Yi now understood how tearful it was when Wan Shi was killed by him using primary regeneration. He could beat them, but he couldn't kill them. Realizing that Yu Yi couldn't do anything to him, the eight-tailed Jihoki acted like Kiribi, and began to float, saying, "Yo yo yo, little snake on the opposite side, why didn't you eat enough yesterday? You didn't use enough strength. I feel sore in my waist and legs, please hit me harder." Yu Yi's mouth curled up with a grim smile, and the huge snake body was filled with a ferocious aura. Waves of vast power waves swept out one after another, and the fierce eyes made people dare not look directly at him. "I have something to advise you. Don't do stupid things, and you won't die." The eight-tailed Jihoki obviously didn't know this sentence, and continued to explore on the edge of death, sneering at Yu Yi, saying, "Little snake, I already know that you are short and sharp, you don't need to explain to me, explanation is covering up is true, don't worry, your grandfather will not despise you, I will only laugh at you fiercely. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha." The laughter of the eight-tailed Jihoki rumbled through the sky. Yu Yi's face darkened, and he didn't plan to hold back, and planned to use the strongest attack method at present. Previously, Yu Yi practiced the Raise Nan in order to eventually obtain the tailed beast ball, but after obtaining the Samadhi True Fire, he had a new idea. Why should he give up the far and seek the near, and use the yin-yang attribute chakra to create the tailed beast ball? He can obviously continue to compress the Samadhi True Fire to form an attack method comparable to the tailed beast ball. Yu Yi opened his bloody mouth, and wisps of small flames of Samadhi True Fire jumped in his mouth, condensing into fire rings, swirling, and finally condensing into a highly concentrated fireball. Ordinary Samadhi True Fire has platinum border and orange-red base, but this highly concentrated Samadhi True Fire is transparent from inside to outside with platinum color, without any extra high temperature overflowing, all gathered in the core. Gurgle. The eight-tailed Jihoki swallowed his saliva, and now he realized that he had shot himself in the foot, and he wanted to slap himself a few times. Why is this mouth so cheap? It is hard for it to imagine how terrifying the power of the Samadhi True Fire that could melt everything just now would be after being concentrated. But at the same time, this also stimulated the pride of the eight-tailed Jihoki. It is a powerful tailed beast in the world, and the eight-tailed Jihoki is among the best. It doesn't believe that there are other giant pythons in the world that can compare to it. The eight-tailed Jihoki also opened his mouth, and the chakra that was so majestic that it made ordinary ninjas feel palpitations gathered. The chakras belonging to the two attributes of yin and yang intertwined with each other, condensing into a huge black-tailed beast jade. A terrifying aura emerged from the two monsters. The mountains and rivers were torn apart, and the earth was shaking. Several huge cracks appeared under their feet, more than 10 meters in size. The earth was shaking, and grains of sand were bouncing up and down. All creatures within 100 miles felt an unprecedented pressure, like a huge rock pressing on their chests, and even breathing was difficult. A snake and a cow ghost shouted at the same time. "Go to hell!" Chapter 94. The momentum of the snake and the cow kid rose steadily, and the unbridled chakra spread out, blowing dust, the earth collapsed, and shocking cracks stretched out. The momentum alone created such a terrifying scene. It is hard to imagine how terrifying the power contained in each side is. The chakra hurricane swept wildly in all directions, and many ninjas far away in the hidden cloud village were shocked, either looking for shelter or holding the beams around them to avoid being blown away by the strong wind. The hidden cloud village was shocked and horrified, looking at the two behemoths 20 kilometers away, reaching a certain critical point, and they all had a premonition. Here. Yu Yi and the eight-tailed cow kid let go at the same time, and the highly concentrated platinum-colored fireball of the Samadhi True Fire and the huge black-tailed beast jade burst out. One white, one black. The two huge spheres collided in mid-air, like two missiles colliding with each other. A blinding white light shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire world like a white world. Yun Yin, who was looking directly at the battle, felt a sharp pain in his pupils due to the light. He screamed and covered his eyes, not daring to look directly at it. When the light covering the world retreated like a tide and gathered into a beam like the horizon, the extreme explosion sounded late. Boom! 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 The huge roar penetrated the world and was deafening. A mushroom cloud as high as 100 meters rose up, and the energy was out of control, like a wild horse running wildly and mighty. In the center of the explosion, a burst of flames burst out with a bang, like a fiery red ocean ripple, the flame ripples spread out in circles, and trees, rocks, rivers, and the ground were destroyed wherever they passed. With this as the center, the land within a radius of 10 miles turned into a blazing sea of fire. The aftermath of the explosion set off waves of strong hurricanes, like the raging waves of the ocean, bursting out in a more violent form, with high temperatures spreading and scorching heat waves. The people of Yunyan, who were 20 kilometers away, only felt a gust of wind coming. Whoosh! 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 The heat wave, like a tsunami, blew away the rubble on the houses and the stalls on the streets. In the midst of the chaos, some unlucky people were even blown to the ground by the wind and hit the wall head-on. Gilu! When the wind subsided, the Yunyan looked at the messy scene around them, swallowed their saliva in awe, and their hearts were full of horror. This was just the impact of the battle, which caused such a natural disaster-level destructive power. They couldn't imagine what kind of horrible scene happened on the battlefield. Many Yunyan climbed to a high position and looked into the distance. Suddenly, the cloud-hidden clan was stunned, their mouths opened like koi fish, and they could even swallow a salted duck egg, with an incredible and shattered expression. There was no other reason. In their sight, the continuous mountains within a 10-mile radius of the battlefield seemed to be hollowed out with a shovel. The place where the peaks originally stood now showed a plain. On the plain, the flames did not go out for a long time, and the edges were even burned into shiny high-concentration carbon element stones by the high temperature. Hiss! The cloud-hidden clan was horrified and took a breath of cold air. The battle between the two sides actually permanently changed the topography of a place. So, the question is? How are they now? However, the 8 tentacles of the 8-tailed bull demon were all stained with the white gold samadhi true fire, and even the body was stained with a little. It wanted to repeat the same trick, cut off the stained part, and then regenerate the broken limbs. But it never expected that this highly concentrated samadhi fire would spread like a thorn in the flesh, and soon wrapped up its body. No. For the first time, the fearless 8-tailed Gyho ghost actually felt a sense of death crisis and let out an unwilling roar. As a product of high concentration chakra, the tailed beasts are immortal. Even if they are severely injured, as long as they have chakra, they can recover after a period of recovery. But the problem is that samadhi fire is not an ordinary flame. The 8-tailed Gyho ghost can clearly feel that every inch of chakra in its body has been burned by the samadhi fire, leaving no residue. The 8-tailed Gyho ghost has lived for thousands of years since its birth, and it doesn't want to die just like that. So, what can be done? The 8-tailed Gyho ghost looked at Yu Yi, and it understood that the reason why the samadhi fire that now wrapped its body did not burn it to death in one breath, but was entangled with it as a threat, was all thanks to the other party. In other words, Yu Yi didn't want it to die. The 8-tailed bull demon dragged the white gold flame on his body, endured the severe pain every moment, staggered to Yu Yi, and said, "I lost, please show mercy and spare my life." Yu Yi's face was indifferent, and he said lightly, "But from your performance, I didn't see the attitude of surrender at all. To live or die, this is a question. In the face of death, not all creatures can die generously, especially monsters like the 8-tailed bull demon who have lived for who knows how many years, and they cherish their lives even more." The 8-tailed bull demon pursed his lips, and in the astonishment, confusion, and shocked eyes of many Yunyan, his huge body slowly lay on the ground, touching the ground with his forehead, as if surrendering. "Please spare my life, sir. If I had known this, why did I do it in the first place?" Yu Yi said this in the tone of a victor. Then, Yu Yi opened his bloody mouth and sucked with strong suction. The platinum-colored flames wrapped around the 8-tailed Gyho ghost, like birds returning to their nests, broke away from the 8-tailed Gyho ghost and were sucked into Yu Yi's stomach. The life and death crisis was resolved, and the 8-tailed Gyho ghost breathed a sigh of relief. His spirit was extremely exhausted, and the condensed chakra suddenly dispersed and returned to the seal in Kirabi's body. Kirabi only felt a sharp pain all over his body, as if his body was stripped of bones. The whole person was like a pool of mud, limp on the ground, allowing Yu Yi to pick him up and leave towards the distant cloud village. After Yu Yi left, at the original battlefield, a mound of earth rose on the ground, and a pitcher plant emerged. Black and White Jew looked at the mountain that had been razed to the ground, with a touch of surprise and deep fear in his eyes. "This Yu Yi is too strong. No. If I let Yu Yi continue to develop, I'm afraid it will affect my plan. It seems that I have to remind Pain and find an opportunity to nip this unstable factor in the bud." After saying that, Black and White Zetsu merged back into the ground, and the ground returned to its original state, as if such a person had never appeared here. Chapter 95. A week later. The news about the Yandame Reikige's death in battle and the change of ownership of Kumigakure village spread quickly to the entire ninja world through the hands of spies lurking in Kumigakure village. The big forces, whether overt or covert, have information about Yuya, the giant white python. Fighting the Yandame Reikige alone, the white giant python defeated him, leaving no trace of the Reikige's body. Intimidating the Eight Tails, the Nihogui will surrender. With the famous name and thunder shadow, the wild python is arrogant. Fight a wealthy family, divide the scrolls, win people's hearts, and be ambitious. An uninvited guest is threatening the entire ninja world. A series of news, like a thunderbolt on a sunny day, engulfed the entire ninja world inside and out, catching them off guard. Whether they were the upper-class figures or the common people at the bottom, they were all shocked by the information contained in it. Ever since the Six-Path Sage spread the chakra training method, the ninja world has formed a series of large and small bloodline-limited families. After the chaotic Warring States era, each of them finally formed a ninja village. Based on the joint governance of the major families, they controlled the supreme force of a country. Over the years, everyone has formed a certain tacit understanding. A cage from a ninja village had better come from a big family. But now, Yu Yi's series of actions in Union Village are not only subverting the rules that have been formed in the ninja world for many years, but also overturning the table and setting up a new mountain. Look! He actually eliminated the wealthy families in Union Village, and shared the wealth and ninjutsu scrolls they had accumulated over the years with the ninjas who were born from civilian backgrounds. Did a human do this? Well, Yuya is indeed not a human being. For example, Yuya is now comparable to Napoleon back then. He has had a series of impacts in France, so much so that he has aroused the disgust of the upper-class figures in neighboring countries. At this moment, I don't know how many shadows of the ninja village and their respective elders hate Nato so much that they want to tear his skin and bones to vent their hatred. It can be said that Yuya has become the public enemy of the entire ninja world. Konoha Village. Hokage Building. Although there was Nato's intrusion in the Chunin examination, the plot still moved forward according to inertia, and in the end, Tsunade became the new Hokage. At this moment, Tsunade was in a meeting. A long round table, divided into 4 parts, sat 4 people. Tsunade, Koharu, Mito Kadini, and Danzo were transferred to the dormitory. The Hokage Advisory Board, and the root leaders together formed the highest level meeting in Konoha Village. As the spokesperson of the major families in Konoha Village, Mito Minoyan slammed the table and said, "That's unreasonable. Does this giant white python know what bad things it has done? Tsunade, I suggest that we should immediately select an expeditionary force to go to Kumigakure village to attack Yuya, the giant white python, bring order to Kumigakure village, and maintain the peace and order that the ninja world should have." Mito Minoyan's words were righteous and awe-inspiring. If Tsunade hadn't been very familiar with his personality, she would have been almost fooled by his behavior and thought he was an undercover agent sent by Hidden Cloud Village. Koharu, who moved to bed, was also one of the Hokage advisory group and also represented the interests of certain families in the village, saying, "Tsunade, I agree with Menyan's suggestion. The behavior of this giant white python is provoking the tacit rules of the ninja world for so many years. He is a breaker of the rules. According to intelligence, many ninjas from civilian backgrounds in the village have recently begun to feel uneasy. Some even proposed that the major families in the village open up their unique secret techniques for them to learn. The reason is that this is the case in Union Village. Do it, why don't we in Konoha Village do this?" Mito Minoyan raised his eyebrows. He was very old and had a very bad temper. He slammed the table again, scratched his neck, and said angrily, "What a joke! The unique secret techniques of each major family are the foundation of the family. How can we make them public and let them learn? They are robbing Chiguo. When an old man or an old woman talks about this kind of thing, it's as if their parents were killed, and they get very angry." Tsunade rubbed her forehead, feeling extremely headache. Although she also understands that what Nato does has always been what she wants to do, but unfortunately in Konoha Village, a place with many families, she has had little effect and has been hampered by many constraints. What's more, Yu Yi's approach was too radical. Although Tsunade wanted to support civilian ninjas, she would never want the Senju clan, which had few people left, to be destroyed, and the wealth and secret scrolls accumulated over the years to be distributed to others. After all, it's all about the butt that determines the head. At this time, She glanced at Danzo and saw that Danzo had been sitting in his seat without saying a word. She couldn't help but secretly wonder why this guy didn't speak this time. Could it be that he was brewing some conspiracy? Tsunade turned her beautiful eyes, gently changed the topic, and said, Danzo, I see that you are thinking deeply. Have you already thought of a solution? Danzo closed his eyes, seemingly resting his eyes. Upon hearing this, Danzo suddenly opened his eyes, and a light flashed through his cloudy eyes. Certainly. Under the surprised looks of Tsunade and the others, Danzo said confidently. Now, this Yu Yi is stirring up trouble, making the entire ninja world uneasy. I'm afraid that not only our Konoha village, but also other ninja villages are now afraid that the storm caused by Yu Yi will affect themselves and make the civilian ninjas in their villages have other ideas. So, now is the time to contact other ninja villages, hold a joint meeting, form a ninja coalition, and jointly fight against Yu Yi. Tsunade and the other two were shocked. Danzo is indeed a 1,000-year-old ninja. If Konoha village takes the lead and holds this unique ninja village joint meeting, it will gain unparalleled reputation. At that time, the ninja coalition will most likely be headed by Konoha village. And as the initiator of this proposal, Danzo will also gain unimaginable prestige. Danzo can grab huge profits without sending out a single soldier. He is really a veteran in this field, which makes Tsunade ashamed and feels that there is still a lot to learn. Although it was risky to accept Danzo's suggestion, Tsunade was more worried about Yu Yi, the rule breaker. As long as he existed for one day, he would shake the foundation of the village's rule. Compared with the mere influence, Tsunade did not want Konoha village to decline in her hands. So, she only thought for a moment and made a final decision, saying, Order, send invitations to the cages of Sand Village, Rock Village, Mist Village, and various small ninja villages to meet in the Iron Kingdom to discuss major issues and make plans for the future. Chapter 96. With the help of the major ninja villages, the news that the joint meeting of ninja villages was about to be held in the Kingdom of Iron spread throughout the ninja world, and it was known to everyone. The goals of the conference they held this time were very clear. Eradicate Yuya, the cancer in the ninja world. While the outside world was rushing about this matter, Sasuke avoided the spies from various ninja villages and came to the Land of Rain quietly. When Sasuke came to the gate of Yuyin village, his tiger body trembled, and his black pupils were replaced by golden vertical ones. Obviously, Nato has taken over Sasuke's body and is controlling him remotely. Regarding Yu Yi's arrival, the guard at the entrance of Yuyin village did not hesitate and let him go directly. Apparently he had been notified by the higher UPS. Nato walked straight to the Akatsuki organization's base camp, took the old elevator, and swayed to the top of the tower. At this moment, the Akatsuki organization's base camp seemed deserted. It was not as lively as when Yuya first came, because most of the people were sent to other ninja villages to secretly capture tailed beasts. Walk through the conference room door. Tiandao Pain had his back to him, sitting on a boss's chair. When he heard the door open, he seemed to already know who it was, and a steady and powerful voice sounded. You're here. Yuya found a seat and sat down, crossed his legs, folded his hands on his chin, looked closely at Tiandao Pain's back with a scrutinizing gaze, and said in a deep voice. I have brought you the eight-tailed ox ghost. Where are the people you promised to me now? Tiandao Pain turned his chair and faced Yuya, without any expression on his face, and clapped his hands. With a burst of applause, the side door opened and Zionin walked in. Behind Zionin, white paper like goose feathers flew like tornadoes, pulling 100 people in, and then threw them to the ground. Xiaonan was still the same when facing Yuya, as if Yuya owed her a debt that she would never be able to repay in her lifetime. She looked businesslike and cold, and said. Well, this is what you want, a human with the blood inheritance limit. Apart from this sentence, Xiaonan said nothing else, as if saying another word to Yuya would be a courtesy. Regarding Zionin's attitude of rejecting snakes thousands of miles away, Yuya was very calm and said calmly. Zionin, I haven't seen you for so long, and you still look so cold. Do you know that you won't have a boyfriend if you act like this? Konan rolled her eyes cutely, not bothering to argue with a snake. Seeing that Xiaonan ignored him, Yuya felt bored and had no intention of teasing her anymore. Perhaps this was because snakes were not compatible with girls. Yuya formed a seal with his hands and pressed them on the ground. The art of reverse channeling. Under the shroud of the summoning circle, the unconscious number 100 people on the ground were all channeled to Yu Yi's body. For these human beings with blood inheritance limits, Nato had been born for a long time, and immediately killed them and began to devour the chakra and blood inheritance limits in their bodies. Bite. Congratulations to the host for successfully swallowing the Lan-Dun blood succession limit and gaining 70,000 devouring evolution gene points. Congratulations to the host for successfully devouring the boiling escape blood relay limit and gaining 80,000 devouring evolution gene points. Congratulations! A series of systematic prompt sounds made Yuya feel as if he was hearing the sounds of nature, and he was extremely intoxicated. Although it is said that the higher the level, the fewer devouring evolution genes Yuya obtains. But if you add to this, when Yuya conquered Union Village, he destroyed the wealthy families of Union Village, and all the blood-stained families were wiped out, which also contributed a huge number of devouring evolutionary genes to Yuya. All of these have become the foundation for Yuyi's growth. Evolution begins. This time, Yuyi's body began to grow significantly again. The body size continued to grow from 120 meters to 130 meters, 140 meters, 150 meters, until it was 180 meters long. It finally stopped due to lack of successors. Originally, Yuyi's thick snake body could be hugged by 10 people, but it had grown several times larger, and now 15 people could barely hug it. The weight has doubled, and now it weighs 5 to 6,000 tons. As the snake's body squirms, the ground will not be able to withstand the pressure, and cracks as big as a thumb will appear. It can be said that Yuyi's current body shape is very close to that of the original white snake immortal. Yuya looked at the system's personal information and understood. System goal: help the host evolve into an infinite snake of all realms. Current world: Naruto. Host: Yuya. Breed: white python. Age: under 3 years old, super ultimate body. Lifespan: 2000 years. Devouring evolutionary genes: 7333/89,000. Level: LV890. Language: Snake, Human, Hokage only. Talents: Primary Devouring, Samadhi True Fire, Intermediate Earth Affinity. Abilities: Strengthened Fangs, Steel Skin, Primary Regeneration. Comprehensive Evaluation: he is already considered the top cage level powerhouse in the ninja world, and he is one step away from becoming a super cage. The infinite snake of all worlds has just begun. Follow the footsteps of the system and first become a creature at the top of the food chain in the Naruto world. This evolution brought huge changes to Yuya. One of the points is that Nato has evolved from the ultimate body to the super ultimate body. As mentioned before, super ultimate body equals top shadow level / super shadow. And now, Yuya has one foot in the ranks of the best in the ninja world. The final push: I am afraid that Yuya will have to grow to the 999th level of the white python body to become a super shadow. As for becoming a half-step 6 paths, and the existence of the 6 paths level. Before swallowing the 10 tails, there is no need to think about these. The sight returns to the Hidden Rain village. Pain's eyes have been on Sasuke's face. Seeing that he has a smile on his lips, he said in a low voice. Yuya, are you satisfied with the person I provided? Sasuke's golden snake pupils have regained clarity, which means that Yuya has regained control of Sasuke's body. He nodded and said. Satisfied. Very satisfied. It is indeed the right thing to form an alliance with your Akatsuki organization. Pain did not comment, and changed the subject, saying. Then next, it is time for you to complete the last thing of our alliance. At this moment, one man and one snake, just like the most evil villains in the entire ninja world, smiled knowingly at the same time, and said at the same time. Destroy Konoha village and capture the 9 Tails Jinchuriki. After Pain once again emphasized the common mission of both parties, Yuya also knew that it was time to leave. He didn't need the host to order him to leave, so he said goodbye first. Yuya left the meeting room and was about to return to the Hidden Cloud village. But what Yuya didn't expect was that someone was waiting for him in the narrow and cold corridor. This person was tall and thin, wearing an orange vortex mask, leaning against the metal wall, revealing a scarlet 3-Magadama Sharingan, which was slowly rotating. Yuya, let's find a place to talk. Chapter 97. Nato pretended not to know Obito, just like a normal person seeing him for the first time, with alert eyes, looking him up and down, and asked. Who is your excellency? You are very unfamiliar. Uchiha Obito's body was leaning against the wall. His whole body's aura changed, and there was a soul-stirring pressure in the gloom. The one eye exposed from the Uzumaki mask turned into a Mangekyo Sharingan. I am Madara Uchiha. Obito's posture was good and his aura was decent, but Nato just wanted to laugh. However, Yu Ye and Lao Yunbai had been together for a long time and did not show it. Instead, he cooperated with Obito's performance. There was a look of surprise on his face, and he said in confusion. Uchiha Madara. Is that the famous ancestor of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Madara, who was as famous as Senju Hashirama, and joined forces to end the troubled times and establish Konoha village? Nato's expression was on point, and his timely expression of surprise made Obito very useful. Obito crossed his arms, feeling like a strong man looking down on the world, and said coldly. Yes, I am the Uchiha Madara you are talking about. Yu Ye showed a trace of distrust at the right time, with a questioning tone in his words, and said. Isn't Uchiha Madara dead long ago? How could he still be alive now? Under the Uzumaki mask, Obito raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth and said in a cold voice. It's very simple to prove this. As he spoke, Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan suddenly burst out with an evil light, and an illusion fell towards Nato. Yu Ye looked horrified. At this moment, he lost control of his body, and his eyes suddenly turned into Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito sneered in his heart. This was the illusion he used to control the Nine Tails back then. Presumably, a mere giant white python couldn't escape from his grasp, right? However, the next moment, Obito's sneer expression under the mask suddenly froze, but it was because, with his strong soul and spiritual power, Yu Ye was able to break free from his illusion, and his eyes regained their clarity. Obito's eyes twitched fiercely. Fortunately, he didn't finish his sentence just now, otherwise it would be a failure to pretend to compete today. Yu Ye's expression suddenly changed. Anyone who was suddenly controlled by illusions would probably not feel much better. If he had not evolved step by step and his soul and spiritual power had not become stronger at the same time, I am afraid that he would have fallen into the fate of Kyuubi in the future, becoming a beast that kills without any knowledge, no longer having self-will, and becoming a tool in Obito's hands. Thinking of this, Yu Ye suddenly felt a murderous intention towards Obito. Yu Ye's pupils opened angrily, with a fierce look on his face, and he said with a bloodthirsty tone. Sir, don't you think you went too far just now? Because he was wearing a whirlpool mask, Nato didn't see Obito's surprised expression just now. However, Obito has been immersed in the villain's path for many years, and he has already developed a thick-skin skill. He clearly pretended to have failed just now, but he just put on a posture of having everything under control, and said sadly. I said, this is just a simple way of proof and a little test for you. Now, do you still have any doubts about my identity? I believed you, you bad old man. Very bad. Nato would never believe what Obito said. He could feel that the genjutsu Obito had released just now was of a very high level and was intended to control his thoughts. A sinister smile appeared at the corner of Yu Ye's mouth, and the terrifying murderous intent overflowed like a tide, soaking every foot and every inch of the entire corridor. The flying mosquitoes couldn't bear it anymore, so they exploded in the air and fell to the ground. I don't care if you are Uchiha Madara, but since you want to control me, you must be prepared to fail. Yu Ye opened his mouth, and a thin spray of samadhi true fire came out. The thick high temperature penetrated, and the humid air instantly evaporated wisps of smoke. The corridor was soon filled with clouds of smoke. Before the flames came, a soaring heat wave had already scorched Obito's hair, and the high temperature even wrinkled his black and red clothes. Obito's eyes were focused, and he recognized it at a glance. This was Yu Zanzi's samadhi true fire that swept across the ninja world. He didn't dare to hesitate at all, and with great eye power, he used his special skills. Calm away. It was too late, but it was too soon. Obito seemed to be still in the same place, but in fact, through the space ninjutsu, he stood in the mezzanine of space, and was invincible for a short period of time. Call. The raging platinum flames passed through Obito's body and landed at the end of the corridor behind him. The wall made of steel could not withstand it for even a second before it was melted into a pool of molten iron, opening up the connection with the outside world. The cold and humid air flowed in along the leaky walls of the tower, and a strong wind blew in the corridor, blowing away the thick smoke. Seeing that Obito was okay, Yu Ye knew in his heart that the other party must have used divine power. However, in order to avoid revealing that he knew the other party's details and causing unnecessary trouble, Yu Ye still cooperated with a surprised expression and said loudly. How is this possible? My samadhi true fire, which has always been invincible, has no effect on you at all. If one were to select a candidate for the little golden man, Yu Ye would definitely fail, as his expression was a bit exaggerated. However, Obito did not pay attention to these details, but felt very benefited from them. Look, Yu Ye, who made a big fuss in Union Village before, is just a younger brother in front of him. Obito folded his arms across his chest, pretending to be an old senior, and commented on Yu Ye, saying, "Very interesting fire escape, the temperature is very high, the lethality is extremely strong, and it has half the style of my past. As the saying goes, people must pretend to be cool when they are alive. If they don't pretend to be cool, what's the difference between them and a salted fish?" Obviously, Obito is either pretending to be cool or on the way to pretending to be cool. Yu Ye's mouth twitched slightly, and his eyes closed. "Hold it, don't laugh." Although Yu Ye's heart was calm, and he even wanted to laugh a little, in order to do a good job of "I will quietly watch you pretend to be cool," he deliberately showed an unconvinced expression on his face and said angrily, "Oh? Then I want to see if you can bear it if I keep burning." With only one Manjiki Sharingan, Obito can only maintain Kamui for 5 minutes. Obito took a breath of cold air, but pretending to be cool to this extent, he was already riding a tiger and couldn't get off, even if he had to swallow his teeth. Obito waved at Yu Ye and said provocatively, "Come on, I'll stand here and let you burn me with the samadhi true fire. This sentence is just as annoying as I'm invincible, you can do whatever you want." Yu Ye grinned and laughed, saying, "You said that? Then I'd rather obey you than be respectful." After that, the blazing fire roared towards Obito again. Chapter 98. The platinum-rimmed samadhi fire, burning with blazing heat, ripped through the air, and roared towards Obito. Along the way, the floors, walls, and ceilings made of steel bars could no longer withstand the high temperature and began to melt into black molten iron, gurgling down. Obito's eyes twitched slightly, but he had to hold on even if he had to pretend. He continued to pose in a cool manner, maintaining the divine power, and letting the samadhi fire fall on him. Hey! A large ball of flame fell, passing through Obito's body again and landing at his feet. The high temperature instantly opened a large hole, revealing the scenery of the lower layer, which was a series of 5-meter-thick steel pipes. But what made Obito feel like vomiting blood was that Yu Ye was clearly ruthless this time, and he kept maintaining the samadhi fire, burning his body continuously, and was determined to burn him to death. Would he really keep burning? When he thought that his divine power could only last for 5 minutes at most. Under the whirlpool mask, Obito's forehead was covered with cold sweat. If I had known, I would not have pretended. Yu Ye's samadhi true fire has burned countless strong men to death, and he has long been famous in the ninja world. Even Obito dare not guarantee that he will not be hurt if he is touched by samadhi true fire. Silence. Deathly silence. A snake spit fire crazily, and a person pretends to be cool, without saying too much. Time passed by minute, and seeing that 4 minutes had passed, Obito was secretly anxious when he was about to reach the critical point of Kamui. Unfortunately, Obito was now in a dilemma. He did not dare to give in or ask for help, otherwise, wouldn't his disguise as Uchiha Madara be exposed? Just when Obito was about to bite the bullet and hold on, pain finally arrived late. When he saw this scene in the corridor, he frowned slightly, raised his arm, opened his hand to the surging flames, and shouted in a deep voice. Shinra Tensei! From the palm of pain, an invisible repulsive force suddenly burst out, like a transparent wall of air, directly hitting the surging samadhi fire. Boom! It was as if an invisible hand slapped over, directly scattering the samadhi fire that ordinary people dared not touch. The sparks flew everywhere, falling on the ceiling, walls, and floor, directly melting fist-sized holes, which was very shocking. However, such a powerful samadhi fire was so powerless in front of Shinra Tensei. Seeing this, Yu Ye took a breath of cold air, and a storm of waves rose in his heart, and he was even more afraid of pain's strength. Just one heavenly path pain has suppressed his proud samadhi true fire into this state, so if he adds several other 6 path pains, wouldn't he be able to suppress him? Yu Ye's eyes flickered, which made him begin to re-evaluate whether he should continue to form an alliance with the Akatsuki organization. The 6 path pain at the super shadow level is already so strong, so how amazing will the resurrected Uchiha Madara be? Just thinking about it makes Yu Ye shudder. It seems that it's time to find a way out. Heavenly path pain's majestic eyes swept across Yu Ye and Obito, especially staying on Yu Yi for a longer time, with a hint of warning, and said in a deep voice. Yu Yi, no matter what, this is my territory. It's really too rude for you to attack members of my Akatsuki organization. Yu Yi knew clearly that it was obviously his move to pull the hidden cloud village into his own power that made Heavenly Path Pain feel a little threatened, so he used this excuse to knock him down. But now, it is the honeymoon period between Yu Yi and Akatsuki. He doesn't want to cause a quarrel between the two sides because of this little thing, and ruin his long-planned plan. Yu Yi took a step back slightly, expressing his attitude that he had no intention of being an enemy of Akatsuki. Then he pointed at Obito, smiled slightly, and said, Pain, you can't blame me for this. It was your subordinate who took the initiative to use the Mangeki Sharingan to control me, so I had no choice but to do it here. Tiandao Pain looked at Obito meaningfully. He didn't expect that the other party would do such a thing behind his back. Under the vortex mask, Obito's face was a little ugly. Didn't I check the almanac before going out today? Why is everything going wrong? Isn't it just pretending to be a bitch? Is it so difficult? Fortunately, Obito has been trained for many years and has developed an attitude of not being surprised. In addition, with the mask covering his face, others can't see his expression. People only feel that he is as deep as a mountain, giving people a very powerful feeling. Obito folded his arms and said coldly. I just came to test him to see if he has the strength to form an alliance with us. Tiandao Pain closed his eyes slightly and asked tentatively. Now that we're tested, what do you think? Obito seemed not to realize the deep meaning of Tiandao Pain's words, or perhaps he realized it, but just pretended to be deep and didn't show it, and said coldly. Very good, even from my perspective, his Samadhi True Fire has half the style of mine back then. Tiandao Pain has always been suspicious of Obito and doesn't quite believe in the so-called Uchiha Madara identity. At this moment, hearing what Obito said, Tiandao Pain was slightly shocked. If what he said was true. Just when Tiandao Pain was shocked and suspicious, Yu Yi showed his sharp teeth to Obito again and said. Don't act cool in front of me, believe it or not, I will burn you for 3 days and 3 nights this time. Obito was silent. Damn it, can you still act cool happily? Seeing the situation fall into an awkward situation, Pain quickly acted as a peacemaker and said. We are all allies who work together to create a new world in the ninja world. Now is not the time to have internal strife. The most urgent task is to destroy Konoha village and successfully capture the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Yu Yi raised his head, glanced at Obito, snorted, and said. For Pain's sake, I will let you go this time. After that, Yu Yi ignored Obito and left here directly. After Yu Yi left, Pain looked at Obito meaningfully and said. What do you think of this white python? Obito smiled sinisterly, as unpleasant as a night owl, and said. If you are not of my kind, your heart must be different. Pain's eyes flashed a faint light, nodded, and agreed with Obito's point of view, saying. The information sent to me by Zetsu from the Hidden Cloud Village shows that this white python has great ambitions, which may affect our plan. Now it seems that we will go our separate ways after all. Then, after using him to destroy Konoha village, find an opportunity to kill him. Obito agreed with Pain's idea. Since he can't be used by me, it's better to die. Obito was ruthless and full of murderous intent towards Yu Yi. Chapter 99. Half a month later. The whole ninja world is undercurrent, and the public opinion about Yu Yi has been rampant recently, giving people a feeling that a storm is coming. And today, the eyes of the whole ninja world will be on the tiny country of Iron. Because today, in the Iron Country, an unprecedented cage-level meeting will be held. By then, the remnants of the wealthy families who escaped the disaster in other places, such as Konoha Village, Sand Village, Mist Village, Rock Village, and Cloud Village, as well as representatives of other small ninja villages, will gather together to discuss major issues. A big curtain is about to be opened. The Iron Country is located in the north of the Fire Country, in the bay between the Lightning Country and the Earth Country. It is covered with ice and snow all day long, and the geographical location is extremely bad. As the only neutral country in the ninja world, all the people in this country are samurai, following the traditions handed down from ancient times to the present. In the streets and alleys, you can see samurai wearing silver-layered armor and wearing katana. In this world where ninjas are respected, the reason why the Iron Kingdom, founded by samurai, has survived to this day is simply because they occupy the poorest soil and have no threat capabilities. As the ruler of the Iron Kingdom and the leader of the samurai, Mifune arrived at the door of the building where the meeting was held early in the morning. Mifune is tall and thin, with a long beard, a serious face, and a serious expression. He wears a purple outer robe and a tight samurai armor inside. But when the highest leader of the Iron Kingdom saw the two beauties coming towards him, he rarely squeezed out a smile on his usually strict face and said, "Tsunade-sama, Terumi-me-sama, your arrival is really a great honor to our humble home. Hokage, Tsunade. Mizukage, Terumi-me." Perhaps it was because of the repulsion of the same sex, or perhaps it was because of the comparison between women. Although they were walking together, they ignored each other. Mifune led the way in front and walked into the meeting room in silence. In this small meeting room, there were already people here. Kazekage, Gaara, Tsuchikage, Onoki. Of course, unlike the original work, there are some cages from small ninja villages here, which are not mentioned here one by one. Nowadays, Sand Village and Konoha Village are the most closely connected allies. As soon as the two women entered the door, Gaara showed Tsunade a friendly smile and released goodwill. Tsunade returned him a bright look and sat down in a seat not far from Gaara. Seeing that everyone was here, today's meeting had not yet started. Onoki frowned, his forehead formed a shape, and he complained to Mifune, the person in charge of the meeting, unhappily. "Why haven't the meeting started yet? My old bones are sitting here, and my lumbar disc is almost bulging." Facing the longest-lived Tsuchikage, Mifune did not dare to be negligent, showing a trace of apology, bowing slightly, and said, "Sorry, please wait a moment, there is another important guest coming today." Onoki looked unhappy, floating on the table, sitting cross-legged. "Who is so big that so many of us cages have to wait here?" Mifune smiled and spoke kindly, and finally calmed down this grumpy old man. Just when everyone was about to get impatient, the door opened again. A hot woman walked in. She had short yellow hair, fair skin, eyebrows like crescent moons, and a pair of clear eyes like glass under a pair of beautiful crescent eyebrows. She looked young. Who is she? Many eyes, some doubtful, some questioning, some dissatisfied, fell on this girl, but she was calm and composed. She had a noble demeanor in her every move. It was obvious that she was born in a wealthy family and was not an ordinary person. This made many of the shadows present show interest. You know, if they were in the outside world, each of them would be a big shot who could shake the ninja world with just a stomp of their feet. However, this young girl did not show any fear when being stared at by so many people. This is not something that ordinary people can do. Facing the inquiring eyes, as the host of the meeting, Mifune gave the girl a seat and introduced her. "Dear guests, perhaps you are all unfamiliar with her, but from today on, you will know her name. Her name is Samui, and she is the apprentice of Killer Bee, the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki of the Hidden Cloud Village. Now, she is also the Raikage elected by the remaining wealthy families of the Hidden Cloud Village in the outside world." Onoki showed disdain, crossed his legs, and said, "A mere baby girl who has not been weaned was actually elected as the Raikage by those trash. Ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. No wonder those trash who are not good at doing anything but causing trouble are not ashamed of being occupied by a mere white python." Samui's beautiful eyes were filled with evil, staring at Onoki, with her right hand on the hilt of the knife at her waist, and there was a faint arc flashing. Samui suppressed the killing intent in her chest and said in a hoarse voice, "Stinky old man, say it again if you dare." Onoki raised his eyes with disdain and said, "I said you are a baby girl who has not been weaned. What's the matter? Do you still want to kill me?" As he said that, Onoki raised his right hand, pointed his index finger at his temple, and said with a look of asking for a beating, "Come on, my head is here. If you have the ability, take it." Samui's pretty face flushed with anger, her shoulders trembled, and she drew her sword 3 inches out of the sheath, put it back, and drew it again, over and over again, showing her unhappy mood. Samui knew that the man sitting in front of her was the famous Tsuchikage Onoki. With her current strength, she was definitely not his opponent. Reason told Samui that now was not the time to take action. But Onoki's repeated provocations were provoking her bottom line. Seeing that the meeting was going to be tense before it even started, everyone was a little unprepared. Only Onoki, the old sly guy, had a smile on his face, which showed that he was well prepared and not aimless. Seeing this, Tsunade couldn't let him succeed, so she slammed the table and shouted, "Enough! Today we are here to discuss the formation of a ninja coalition to defeat Yi, the mad python, not to see you, the Tsuchikage, being disrespectful and bullying the weak. Onoki's eyes turned cold and he turned to look at Tsunade. The four eyes met, as if sparks were flying. A strong smell of gunpowder began to spread. At this moment, an uninvited guest walked in, and his voice, which was cold but playful, reached everyone's ears. "Hey, it's quite lively here, is there anyone coming out to welcome me?" As he said this, Yu Yi grinned, revealing a row of sharp teeth. Chapter 100. 5 Shadows Conference Room. Everyone turned their heads and looked shocked. However, they saw that the person who came was a young man with a well-proportioned figure, long black hair, sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, a bold nose, a face as cold as ice, and a pair of golden vertical pupils, showing the indifference and fierceness of a beast. Obviously, Nato borrowed Sasuke's body to wander around again. Going to the 5 Shadows Conference alone, I am either stupid, or I have a flaw in my brain. In the original work, Sasuke has a lot of luck, and he has the halo blessing of the protagonist, otherwise he would have died countless times. With Nato's cautious temperament, he would not take the risk of being set on fire and come forward with his true body, of course Sasuke's body. Even if the wave collapses accidentally, the worst thing is that Sasuke's body is gone. There's nothing wrong with that. Who are you? You are so brave, you dare to break into the conference room, do you know where this place is? The guards outside are all dead, why is no one stopping them? In the conference room, the Cage from Xiao Ninja Village looked slightly uneasy and started talking about it. This is not to blame them. After all, although they have the title of Cage, these ninjas who were born in Xiao Ninja Village are at the level of Penumbra. They are here to make green grass and serve as foils for the real protagonist. Yuya looked around, his ferocious aura opened, and his cold eyes looked at the little ninja village shadows. They were like clowns, feeling as if they were being stared at by a wild beast, and he suddenly felt a chill to the bone. It was obviously so warm in the conference room, but these people felt like they were in an ice cave. Their bodies were dominated by Yu Yi's terrifying murderous aura, their limbs were numb, their heads were swollen, and they were at a loss. If Yu Yi wanted to kill them now, it would not even take a second, it would be as easy as killing a chicken. This is the power of the top film level. Just a look and an aura are enough to make ninjas below the penumbra lose their fighting ability. Of all the people present, only 4 people were safe and unaffected. Kazekage, Gaara, Tsuchikage, Onoki, Mizukage, Terumi Mei, Naruto, Tsunade. These 4 people were worthy of being the leaders of the 4 ninja villages. They looked at Yuya pretending to be the best as if nothing was wrong. Yuya grinned, revealing a row of teeth, and said, "Oops, I almost forgot to introduce myself. Hello everyone, I am the damn guy you say you want to attack. I will not change my surname when I go down, and I will not change my name when I sit down. My surname is Yu, and my name is Yet. Hello." Quiet. Deadly silence. The cage of Xiao Ninja Village all showed wry smiles. Unexpectedly, before they even started discussing how to deal with Nato, the real owner of this meeting came. Is there anything more ridiculous than this in the world? Okay, now these cage of Xiao Ninja Village can feel Dandan's sadness. As for the guards outside the conference room? Just thinking about it, he knew that he had been killed quietly by Yu Yat, and no one asked such idiotic questions again. As Kiribi's apprentice, Samui is the new Raikage jointly elected by the exiled Kumagakure family. Samui and Yuya have a blood feud. When he hears the word Yuya, he suddenly becomes jealous. A ferocious expression appeared on her bright and charming face, with her crescent eyebrows standing straight up like a female Rakshasa. Samui gritted her silver teeth and said angrily, "It was you who killed the teacher, killed my family, and destroyed the village I love most. I'm going to fight you." Samui drew the sword out of its sheath, and wisps of arcs of electricity wrapped around it, making it sharper. A cold light passed over the blade, drawing an arc in mid-air. The cold blade light made people feel like they were stuck in the throat. What a heroic girl! Sam is a woman who does not give in to men, and takes action when it is time to take action. He is decisive, determined to die, and he will kill you yet. Samui stabbed with such speed that many of the little ninja villagers present could not see clearly. They were all horrified, feeling that they had underestimated this little girl before. Yuya raised his eyebrows, took a step back with his right foot, and leaned back slightly. The whole process was completed in one go, with smooth movements and natural responses. You can't be picky. Then, in the shocked and horrified eyes of those little ninja village shadows, the sharp and cold blade grazed Yu Yi's neck. If it hadn't been for his steel skin, his skin would have been cut open by the sharp blade. It's too late to say it, but it's soon. Just as Samai turned the blade and wanted to put it away, Yu Ye stretched out two beautiful fingers, like a vice, clamping the tip of the knife tightly. No matter how hard Samai tried, he could not take it back. Facing Samai's angry and anxious gaze, Yu Ye smiled lightly and said, "Have you ever heard of a saying? Those who make good use of the blade will surely die by the blade." Everyone was shocked. Before they could remind them, they saw Yu Ye exerting force with two fingers, and with a bang, the tip of the knife broke. Yu Ye opened his mouth and blew, and the broken tip of the knife actually swirled in midair, heading towards Sam Yi's throat. "Go up and stab. Quick! Fast as lightning!" In Samai's disbelieving eyes, the broken tip of the knife was as fast as a stream of light. She had no time to react. Her throat hurt, and the broken tip of the knife penetrated deeply into her throat. Bang! Samai fell to the ground, covering his neck with both hands, making a gurgling sound in his mouth, and wanted to say something, but as the bleeding increased, the sound gradually died down and he let go. Before she died, she still had her pupils wide open and refused to close her eyes. Yu Yi did not show mercy just because Samui was a beauty. He was ruthless and cruel, which really shocked many people present. However, as a woman, Terumi Mei felt very unhappy about Samui being on an equal footing with her, so she stood by and let Yu Yi do what he wanted. But when the dust settled, the woman's sympathy overflowed, and Terumi Mei immediately transferred her dissatisfaction to Yu Yi. Terumi Mei stood up suddenly, brows coldly facing Yu Yi, and said sternly, "Bold crazy python! You killed people in front of so many of us Ying, do you still take us seriously?" Yu Yi adjusted his appearance and smoothed his wrinkled clothes, and then he faced the angry Terumi Mei and the other Yings with bad faces leisurely, with a teasing smile on his lips. "There is a famous saying in my hometown. I wonder if you have heard of it." Everyone was quite afraid of Yu Yi. They all tensed up their nerves, took out kunao and made curse seals to prevent accidents. Yu Yi seemed not to see their little movements. He smiled and said, "Excuse me, everyone here. All of you are losers." Yu Yi's words directly ignited the anger in everyone's hearts. Terumi Mei slammed the table and said sternly, "Everyone, come together and kill this crazy python."